My sister and I fell into the water, and Lu Ming chose to save me. My sister was forever lost in that summer. Since then, both families have been consumed by grief and guilt. Out of gratitude, my family has always looked after Lu Ming. Later, we got married naturally. When I returned to my hometown to pay respects to my ancestors at the age of 58, I passed by the river that had swallowed my sister. Lu Ming pushed me away and jumped down. Before he died, he said, "Xingxia, if there's a next life, I will never save you." So all these years, he never really let go of the past. Lu Ming shoved me away with force. The back of my head hit the bridge pier with a sickening thud. His words still echoed in my mind as my vision blurred. Midsummer, if there's a next life, I would never save you. Before I closed my eyes, I thought, if only there was a next life. When I opened my eyes again, the pain in my body had suddenly turned into a feeling of suffocation underwater. I swam hard upstream and then saw the figure of 18-year-old Lu Ming desperately swimming toward his sister. I was stunned for a moment, then followed. After the accident, I went to learn swimming with great dedication. Countless times in my dreams at midnight, I wanted more than anyone to save my sister. This time, I can finally make it happen. Lu Ming and I worked together to drag my sister ashore. River water dripped steadily from our bodies. Gasping for air, Lu Ming looked up. The moment his eyes met mine, he froze completely. He instantly realized I was back too. His lips parted slightly, as if he wanted to say something, but he remained silent in the end. He crouched down, instinctively about to perform CPR on his sister. "Don't touch her." I pushed him away abruptly, my voice hoarse but unusually resolute. I remember it all too clearly. In my past life, Lu Ming saved me just like this. In the small town of the 1990s, gossip could kill. Soon, rumors spread throughout the entire town. In the end, with our parents' arrangement, I dropped out of school without even taking the college entrance exam and married Lu Ming. This time, I won't let my sister end up on the same path as me, just because he laid a hand on her. Besides, my sister doesn't like him at all. I knelt beside my sister, pressing hard on her chest with both hands. "Wake up, Xing, shut on. Please, wake up." Big tears fell from my eyes onto her pale face. Finally, she coughed up water forcefully and opened her eyes. I held her tightly, trembling with sobs. My sister's strong arms wrapped around me. "This is not a dream. I really saved her." The 40-year nightmare finally ended at this moment. We sat in the sun waiting for our clothes to dry. Lu Ming sat silently not far behind us. His gaze was fixed intently on his sister. It was evening by the time we finally got home. Lu Ming stopped at our doorstep after seeing us home. Avoiding my gaze, he said to my sister in a low voice, "Go inside and change your clothes. Don't catch a cold." He finished speaking, turned, and walked away without so much as a glance in my direction. When we got home, Mom and Dad were alarmed by how pale my sister's face was. "What happened? Why is Tongtong's face so white?" "It's nothing." Old man Zhang's dog suddenly darted out and gave her a fright. I beat him to the punch, speaking lightly, but I chased him off before he could bite my sister. My parents shook their heads and sighed. "You've always been wild since you were little. Go wash up and go to bed now." They relaxed and turned back to their room. After our parents fell asleep, a soft knock came at the door too. I opened the door. It was Lu Ming. He was holding a pot of ginger tea. Seeing it was me, his expression turned a bit awkward. "It's ginger tea, for shut on, to ward off the chill." After a pause, he added reluctantly, "You should have some too." I took it and thanked him, about to close the door, but he stopped me with a hand. "Xingxia." Lu Ming's voice was tight, his Adam's apple moving. "You're back too, aren't you?" He seemed to have made up his mind, speaking faster. "Xingxia, you know I've always liked Shu Tong. What happened in my previous life was a mistake. I only saved you because you were close by. Forget about it. Don't bother me anymore." "Okay," Lu Ming finished in one breath, as if saying it a second slower would mean I'd cling to him. From 18 to 58. These words had been buried in his heart for so many years. Finally, they were spoken out loud. "Okay." I looked at him, my heart unusually calm. "Lu Ming, you know I've never liked your type." He looked momentarily stunned, then nodded. "That's good." 3. I carried the warm ginger soup back to the room. My sister had already changed into clean clothes and was drying her hair with a towel. Hearing the noise, she immediately looked up and asked me, "Who just came? Was it Lu Ming?" I was slightly startled and placed the ginger soup on the table. "It's him, who specially brought you ginger soup, saying it would warm you up." My sister's lips unconsciously curved into a smile. Clearly in a good mood, she picked up the bowl and sipped slowly, the steam enveloping her face. I hesitated for a moment, then asked softly, "Sis, are you still going to reject him?" We went to the riverside because Lu Ming had asked my sister out. He had originally planned to confess his feelings to my sister, but since my sister didn't like him, she brought me along. Lu Ming probably doesn't realize that my sister has long since picked up on his feelings. When you like someone, it shows in your eyes, but no one knows that I once had feelings for Lu Ming, too. He's handsome, clever, and kind. Because he liked my sister, he ended up looking out for me too. After school, they would wait for me together outside my classroom and help me with my homework. When I was little, my parents were busy and didn't have much time for me. When my sister was old enough for school, my parents had me start with her. I'm not as pretty as my sister, and I'm not as smart as her either. Every time Lu Ming saw my homework, he'd smile and call me dumb. You can't even solve such a simple problem. Xingxia, how do you expect to get into university? I was annoyed that he called me dumb, yet I couldn't help but find his smile so gentle and handsome. A girl's secret feelings are always hidden in these unspoken moments, but he likes my sister, so these feelings, I buried them deep within me. Later, we ended up getting married. Because of my sister's death, I had imagined 1,000 possible futures involving him, but I never thought it would come at the cost of losing my sister. In exchange for a Lu Ming, this is not the ending I wanted, nor is it what Lu Ming wanted. No matter what, our hearts can never come close. Separated by a life, those subtle feelings have long ceased to stir even a ripple in the stagnant, year-by-year monotony of our marriage. Lu Ming may have never noticed the affection in my eyes, or perhaps, he simply chose to ignore it. It wasn't until I was certain that he had never truly let go of my sister. Back then, I often wished I could go back to the past, and now, we've actually come back. We all have a chance to change our own futures. For Xia, sister put down her bowl, her tone slightly shy. Actually, I think Lu Ming is quite a nice person. She turned to look at me. What if I give it a try with him? After a pause, she asked softly, her gaze carefully landing on my face. Xia, would you be upset? A thunderbolt struck my heart. Watching her cautious gaze, I finally understood she had already figured it out long ago. She noticed I liked Lu Ming, so, in our past life, when she insisted on dragging me to the river, it wasn't for courage. She wanted to speak for me, to express my feelings on my behalf. She went there for my sake, and she died because of me. My nose tingled, and I suppressed the surging emotions, deliberately raising my voice. Xingxiang, what nonsense are you talking about? How could I possibly be angry? I forced a smile, trying to sound as light as possible. You know, I don't like Lu Ming's type at all anymore. All of Lu Ming's gentleness and attentiveness are directed only at his sister. I stopped liking that a long time ago. That youthful flutter of the heart has long since been worn smooth by time. Now, everything has finally returned to its proper course. Sis, go on and give it a try. I heard my own voice, clear and sincere. I give you my heartfelt blessings. This time, I can finally walk a path that is truly my own. No more sitting idly at home, day in and day out, waiting for someone who doesn't love me. 5. The next day, my sister and Lu Ming confirmed their feelings for each other. I climbed up the big banyan tree at the entrance of the town to cool off. Beneath the tree, their laughter drifted to my ears, mingled with the hum of cicadas. All summer long, I covered for them without a word, while also opening my long-neglected textbooks. In this life, I won't have to drop out and get married. I will take the college entrance exam. My grades are average, so I have no choice but to give it my all. School started in September, and we entered our final year of high school. My sister and Lu Ming chose the science track, while I went with the humanities. We were in different classes. After school, the two of them would be waiting right outside my classroom door. Xia, time to go home. Lu Ming, with his sister's school bag slung over his shoulder, followed her gaze to look at me. I turned them down. You go on ahead, sis. I've signed up for evening self-study. Sister was stunned. When did this happen? Why didn't you tell me? My grades aren't good, and if I want to go to university, I have to work harder. I've already told our parents. You should go back now. I didn't even look up, staring intently at the math paper in front of me, my brow furrowed. But, before the sister could say anything more, Lu Ming suddenly turned grim and pulled her away. Forget about her. She can do whatever she wants. Let's go. The two gradually faded into the distance. I continued working on my problems, but heard Gu Wenzhou scoff behind me. Interesting. Gu Wenzhou transferred here from a big city in the second semester of his sophomore year of high school. In class, he either slept or read comic books, and he always looked down his nose at everyone. He couldn't get along with anyone. I've never spoken to him. I remember his name only because of my sister. I can't be bothered to figure out what he meant. My time is more precious than anyone else's. I don't want to waste a single second. The old ceiling fan creaked overhead as I kept working on the problems. I walked home alone at night, using a flashlight. The way home from school went along a long, sloping path. Breathing lightly, I recited the text under my breath. The wind on the road was sultry and sticky, yet my steps had never felt so light. That was Until I saw Lu Ming standing not far from the entrance to my alley. He was clearly waiting for me. Xingxia, you don't have to stay out this late just to avoid me. He frowned, his gaze fixed on me, his tone low and serious. It's not safe for a girl to walk alone at night. Stop being difficult. Starting tomorrow, you'll walk home with us. I looked at that know-it-all expression on his face and found it utterly ridiculous. You think I'm avoiding you, isn't it? Ever since I got together with Shudong, you've been deliberately distancing yourself from me. He took a deep breath, as if restraining himself. If you want to learn, we can help you. There's no need to act out like this. What if something happens? Shudong will worry. He thinks I'm acting. I felt that my distance and my efforts were all just to get his attention. Lu Ming. I stopped, looked directly at him. Do you think I do everything just for you? He was momentarily at a loss for words. I continued. I don't like you. And that's really it. Evening study is for my own sake. And so is getting into university. You're giving yourself way too much credit. His expression darkened, his tone turning stiff. Xingxia. Do you have to talk like that? You're the one who blocked my way first, spouting all that self-righteous nonsense at me. For the first time in both my lifetimes combined, I dropped all pretense with him. We stood facing each other in the stifling night breeze. After a few seconds, he suddenly chuckled. Xingxia, you think you can get into college? We'll see about that. Don't come begging me for tutoring then, Lu Ming left with a parting remark. I turned towards the front door. But the moment I looked up, my heart gave a sudden, sharp lurch. My sister was standing quietly by the door, and I had no idea how long she'd been watching. She took my school bag and was silent for a moment before speaking softly. Xia, since you want to get into university so badly, how about moving into the school dormitory? 6. In the second week of the semester, I moved into the school dorm. After helping me make the bed, my older sister went downstairs and headed home. As she left, she whispered a quiet "I'm sorry, Xingxiang." I ran out onto the balcony and called after her loudly. An apology should be made while looking someone in the eye. She stopped in her tracks but did not turn around. I continued, besides, I'm not even angry. You're my sister. I would never do anything to hurt you. I will always choose you. Will you believe me, please? My sister has always been quiet since she was young. As my mom puts it, she's deep in thought and keeps everything to herself. Whenever I argued with her as a child, my mom always advised me to apologize first. Sometimes it wasn't even my fault, but I've gotten used to it over all these years. We're sisters, bound by blood. What's the harm in saying a few kind words compared to my pride, or even Lu Ming? I care more about not hurting her or putting her in a difficult position. Living on campus is fine too. It'll help me focus on my studies. I don't blame her at all. There's nothing wrong with seeing things from her perspective. But I didn't get a response from my sister. She didn't say anything, just waved at me over her shoulder and went home. I silently watched her figure fade into the distance. Then I exhaled a deep breath. Forget it. All in all, I've lived decades longer than her. I'm not going to stoop to her level. After that day, I began my life as a boarder. 7. All 3 of my roommates were from remote villages. I only applied for on-campus housing because the daily commute was too inconvenient. Yet, even though my home is right here in town, I still had to apply for a dorm room. So at first, they thought I was taking up a spot and were quite cold towards me. But in reality, the school dorms were practically empty. They couldn't even fill them up. However, I didn't explain, just silently climbed into bed and opened my homework every day after washing up. The dormitory only provides electricity for an hour after evening self-study. After the lights were out, I would use a flashlight and my legs as a desk to take notes on mistakes. Soon, I changed positions 4 or 5 times. Eventually, I ended up lying on the bed. I was engrossed in a 300-round battle with math problems and didn't notice my roommate across the way had moved her desk a bit closer to mine. Right on the desk, a crisp voice rang out. I looked up to see my 3 roommates standing around my bed, holding candles. I screamed in surprise. Since that day, my relationship with my roommates has grown increasingly harmonious. The girl living across from me is named Yi Xiaohong, but she goes by Yi. She was my desk mate. She was also the one who moved the desk over for me that day. The other 2 roommates were twins, named Zhou Rong and Zhou Qian. Yezi lived the farthest away. It was over 10 kilometers from the town, and part of the journey was along a mountain path. Zhou Rong and Zhou Shi were orphans, raised by their uncle's family since childhood. Brought there by their grandmother, they started boarding at school in middle school. They are both hardworking and wonderful girls. Everyone struggled to get into high school, each with a strong determination. I want to win, I want to repay my family, and I want to leave these mountains to see the world beyond. I feel the same way. In this day and age, Hard work always pays off. We started helping each other with problems and sharing the pickled vegetables we brought from home. Whenever mom brings me something delicious to eat, she always makes extra. The better I got along with them, the more distant I grew from my sister during breaks. When Yezi and I went to the restroom, we would always pass by my sister and Lu Ming's classroom. She was sitting with Lu Ming. Occasionally, our eyes would meet when they looked up, only to quickly dart away again. The days passed uneventfully, and soon the first monthly exam arrived. My grades had improved by 7 places in the class ranking since the start of the semester. Although I still failed math, I showed significant improvement in all my other subjects. Yezi got the best score among the 4 of us, ranking in the top 10 of our grade. I stared dejectedly at the test paper, and she stood up, snatched it away, and stuffed it into the drawer. Stop looking at it. You've improved, haven't you? Nothing's more satisfying than seeing your hard work pay off. Come on, let's go get a soda. To our surprise, both my sister and Lu Ming's grades had slipped. Not long after, they also moved into the dorms and started evening self-study. The next morning, my sister found me in the cafeteria and sat down across from me as if nothing had happened. As if by prior agreement, neither of us mentioned the previous discord, as though it had never occurred. I'm so glad she finally chose to trust me. Here you go, Shashya. Yezi handed me a shredded radish bun. I had just taken it and hadn't even set it down yet. A pair of chopsticks suddenly reached over from the side, snatched the bun away with utter nonchalance, and then dropped a plain steamed bun into my bowl. She doesn't eat radishes. Lu Ming's voice remained calm, as if mentioning it casually, but as soon as the words left his mouth, he was the first to be stunned. In my past life, it wasn't until our 3rd year of marriage that Lu Ming discovered I couldn't stand radishes. That day, his mother had steamed a huge plate of radish-stuffed buns. The moment I caught a whiff of the smell, I threw up. We only found out later that it was because I was pregnant, which explains such a strong reaction. Unfortunately, that child couldn't be kept because Lu Ming said he didn't like children. He took me to have an abortion. After 40 years of marriage, we had no children. The harsh sound pulled me back from my memories. I'm full. I'm leaving first. Sister pushed back her chair and stood up, leaving most of the porridge in her bowl. Her voice was soft, and she didn't look at any of us. Lu Ming immediately stood up and chased after her. I watched their retreating figures one after another. Suddenly, I felt a wave of fatigue. Shashya, does that Lu Ming like you? Zhou Qian, with a bun stuffed in her mouth, shook her head like a rattle drum. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Isn't he with Shashya's sister? Yeah, Lu Ming would rather die than love me, so I'm even more confused about what's going on with him. Maybe things will get better after the college entrance exam next year. 9. I don't know how Lu Ming explained it to his sister, but they made up. The next day they resumed going in and out of the classroom together, as close as before. I breathed a small sigh of relief. However, during the evening self-study, Lu Ming suddenly came to my class. He ignored the glances around him and directly picked up the practice paper on my desk. After a quick scan, his finger suddenly slammed down on a problem. How could you get this question wrong, Xingxia? What exactly are you doing at night? He picked up his pen and was about to work out the problem on my paper. I looked at him puzzled. Lu Ming, what exactly do you want? Are you harassing me now? He was taken aback, then forced a smile. You're overthinking it. I'm just delivering something for Shudong. He handed me a new exercise book. I reached out to take it, but he suddenly leaned close to my ear. Xingxia, you really wanted me to do this, didn't you? Lu Ming's words were cut off as I pushed him away. The next second, Gu Wenzhou suddenly stood up and walked over, pushing him aside and then taking the paper to cross out the steps Lu Ming had just written. It's not Midsummer who's wrong, it's you. Lu Ming stared at Gu Wenzhou in shock, then after a moment, turned to me with a cold sneer. So the real reason you insisted on living on campus was to make it easier to hook up with some random guy at night. I stared at him in utter shock, feeling as if the blood in my veins had frozen solid. In a county high school in the 90s, that statement alone was enough to ruin my reputation. Trembling with rage, before I could even speak, Gu Wenzhou had already thrown a punch at Lu Ming's face. Say that again, I fucking dare you. The two instantly grappled, knocking over desks and scattering books across the floor. When her sister arrived with the teacher, the scene was already in chaos. Under the teacher's stern questioning, she lowered her eyes and whispered, it's because Xingxia and Gu Wenzhou were getting too close, and Lu Ming was worried she'd fall behind in her studies, so he acted on impulse. I suddenly looked at her, my heart feeling as if it had been gripped tightly, unable to breathe. In the end, the 3 of us received a formal reprimand. The gossip spread through the entire school in an instant. When I went home for the weekend, my parents unleashed a torrent of furious scolding. You've completely humiliated us. We never should have let you go to that school in the first place, if you can't handle your studies. Then get yourself home and find a man to marry. I hung my head, my nails digging into my palms. My sister stood by, not uttering a single word in my defense the entire time that night. For the first time, I defied my parents. I screamed at them. I didn't do anything wrong. Lu Ming is the one who lost his mind. What does that have to do with me? I won't get married. I'm going to take the college entrance exam. I'm going to university. I pushed the door open, sprinted all the way back to the school dormitory, and buried myself under the covers. The October air was still stiflingly hot, yet my heart felt like it had been torn open, letting in a cold, howling wind. I don't get it. Just for a guy like Lu Ming, my sister would treat me like this. I'm never talking to her again. After what felt like an eternity, the dorm room door opened. Leaf, hey, Xiaxia, why didn't you go home? That was Zhou Qian's voice. Shoo, Xiaxia's in a bad mood. I heard Yezi whisper a reminder to them, but Zhou Rong came over and patted me. It's fine. Oh, it's perfect you didn't go home. You're in for a treat. She spoke cheerfully, as if unaware of my distress. My grandma made the most amazing meat sauce and sent us a big jar. Come on, try some. I wiped away my tears and peeked out. Coming. 10 early the next morning, I walked into the classroom. Gu Wenzhou, with a bruise on his forehead, placed a bottle of soda on my desk. Xingxia, no need to thank me for yesterday. Why should I thank you? I cut him off, my voice icy. If you hadn't taken matters into your own hands, I wouldn't have been officially reprimanded or become the subject of everyone's gossip. I stared into his eyes. What did my sister offer you? What made you go to such lengths to help her? The smile on Gu Wenzhou's face froze instantly. I slammed the soda back onto his desk, grabbed my book, and stormed off, but he chased after me and grabbed my wrist. Xingxia, stop right there. Explain yourself. Since when have I ever listened to your sister? I impatiently shook his hand off. You wrote her a letter not long after you transferred here in our sophomore year. I saw it with my own eyes. Back then, I was still in the same class as my sister, Lu Ming. Gu Wenzhou had only been at the school for a few days when he gave my sister a love letter. I took an instant dislike to him. Gu Wenzhou was taken aback. His face flushed crimson, not from embarrassment, but from anger. That letter, it wasn't for her at all. I meant it for you. So you never got it. I was wondering why you wouldn't even look me in the eye. What nonsense are you talking? I was even angrier now. Turning around and walking away. Gu Wenzhou, however, suddenly got a burst of energy and shamelessly followed right behind me. It's not nonsense. I just like you. I saw you the day I transferred here, just outside of town. You were with a bunch of kids, hopping into someone's field to pick fruit. You ran so fast and laughed so loudly, like a carefree little monkey. I stood frozen in place, my face alternating between green and red. Yizi and Zhou Qian. Zhou Rong slowly strolled by, bursting into laughter. Xia, stealing fruit. Monkey, you're the monkey king. Ha ha ha. I reached out to cover Zhou Rong's mouth. What do you mean steal? That's my second grandfather's fruit tree. Alright. The monkey. Xia picking fruit. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. That's right. I've always been like this. Not quiet enough, not smart enough, so I was never as likable as my sister. Yet someone actually likes me just as I am. I turned around and looked back at Gu Wenzhou. He scratched his head, looking at me a bit sheepishly, but his eyes were bright. I'm quite certain I won't like him. I won't like anyone either. I just want to focus on my studies right now. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I apologized to him. He was taken aback for a moment, then broke into a wide grin. As long as you're not mad at me. Hey, how about letting me join your study group? My grades are a bit better. I could help you out. Seriously, I just don't usually feel like studying. But I'm actually really smart. I looked at him skeptically and finally shook my head. I can't agree to that. Our group leader, Yezi, has the final say. Yezi, who was standing nearby, stopped smiling and said with a serious expression, Classmate Gu, I can let you join, but you'll have to score higher than me on the next monthly exam. How are you supposed to teach Xiaxia if you can't even beat me? 11. Of course, Gu Wenzhou was no match for Yezi. He had no choice but to resort to shameless persistence, following us around every single day. We were eating, and he sat down at the table next to us. We were studying, and he found a seat in the back row. At first, he quietly worked on problems on his own, occasionally peeking over to ask, how did you solve this problem? One day, when Yizi wasn't there, Zhou Qian was stuck on a math problem and was scratching her head in frustration. Gu Wenzhou casually wrote down the solution steps on her draft paper. Can it really be solved this way? Zhou Qian's eyes lit up. He raised an eyebrow smugly. Am I awesome, little master? Awesome, Master Gu. Gradually, his grades improved, and with Yizi, They helped us solve quite a few tough problems. It was only then that we realized Gu Wonjo wasn't exaggerating when he boasted about being so smart that day. It was on that day that we discovered Gu Wonjo was indeed a young master from a wealthy family, just the exiled version. My dad remarried. And then my stepmom had 2 more kids, so, of course, I got pushed aside. He said it with a grin, as if he were talking about someone else. We all fell silent. Turns out, he's had a rough go of it too. Gu Wonjo is quite sharp. Noticing that we were treating him better, he immediately took advantage of the situation. Every evening during self-study, he kept moving his chair closer. Eventually, we ended up squeezing together as 5, doing problems, memorizing words, and practicing papers. He often brought snacks, grinning and presenting them to Yizi with both hands. Bowing slightly, Your Highness, the group leader, a humble offering for our esteemed team. Yezi scolded him for being shameless, but she'd still share half of the homemade pickles she brought from home with him. Senior year felt like a wound-up clockwork, tests piled up like mountains, and the countdown calendar pages flipped relentlessly. The 5 of us huddled in the corner of the classroom, heads bent together, arguing over problems and quizzing each other on key points. When you're tired, splash some water on your face, take a gulp of strong tea, and get back to studying. Gu Wonjo still couldn't sit still, constantly complaining about how hard and exhausting studying was. But for all his grumbling, the pen in his hand never stopped moving. The rumors and gossip receded like the tide, fading away without anyone noticing. But I never spoke to Lu Ming again. Even though he deliberately appeared wherever I might pass by, I treated him like air and walked right past him. 12. A light snow began to fall over the town in December. I didn't go home that weekend. My older sister came to my dorm to bring me a heavy quilt and winter clothes. For the past few months, her and Lu Ming's grades had remained mediocre, showing no real improvement. She put the things down and was about to leave when I called out to her from the doorway. We stood side by side under the eaves, watching the fine snowflakes drift down in silence. I let out a puff of white breath and spoke first. Sis, why don't you believe me? I really don't have feelings for Lu Ming anymore. You were worried I still had thoughts about him, so you had me bored at school. I listened. He insulted me and got into a fight with Gu Wonjo. Even though you wronged me, I don't blame you. From that day until now, I haven't spoken a single word to him or seen him even once. I've gone this far, won't you believe me? I looked into my sister's downcast eyes and patiently addressed, one by one, every unspoken worry she held yet. She listened in complete silence, not uttering a single word. After I finished speaking, she softly asked in return, what if Lu Ming likes you instead? That's his business. My reply was immediate. His feelings shouldn't become my problem. Besides, Lu Ming doesn't even like me. He just assumed my gaze should always be fixed on him. I grabbed my sister's hand. Sis, you're the only one I care about. We're family, aren't we? She suddenly smiled, a faint smile tinged with an indescribable bitterness. Is that so? But is there still a place for me by your side now? Before I could respond, she continued, you've made so many new friends. They eat with you, study with you, accompany you to classes, and stay with you for evening self-study. Xia, it seems like you don't need me anymore. They're really nice. We could all be friends. No need. She shook her head, interrupting me. Then she turned and walked into the snow. Not looking back, I stood under the eaves, watching her back disappear once again. After that, it seemed like she was deliberately avoiding me. We attend the same school, but rarely see each other. It was Lu Ming who suddenly asked a classmate to pass a message, inviting me to meet by the river. I didn't pay any attention to him. 13. On New Year's Day, the school was closed for the day. I said goodbye to my parents and went to the small courtyard where Gu Wonjo lived. Pushing the door open, the aroma of hot pot already filled the air. Yizi and Zhou Rong were busy adding vegetables to the pot, while Zhou Qian was pulling on Gu Wonjo's sleeve, insisting on playing rock paper scissors, with the loser having to buy soda in the end. CC1, Gu Wonjo dawdled as he pulled on his coat, still grumbling defiantly, when I'm the one treating. There's no way I'm letting a girl do the legwork. Sigh, why am I just so darn nice? Zhou Cici laughed, shaping a snowball and tossing it at him. You and your big mouth, just get going already. The snow outside the window was falling heavier and heavier. The few of us gathered around the stove and sat down. Gu Wonjo raised his soda bottle. Cheers, Happy New Year to us all. Happy New Year. The charcoal fire crackled and popped as the crimson broth bubbled merrily in the pot. The 5 of us ate until beads of sweat formed on our brows. The rising steam gradually blurred the frost patterns on the window. Our appetites were nearly sated, but the conversation only grew more lively. Someone started it, and we began talking about the future. So, what majors are you all planning to apply for? Gu Wonjo was the first to blurt out, finance, for sure. That family fortune has my mother's share in it. Why should I let some outsider get a piece of the pie? I'm going back to fight for my inheritance, I chimed in. I want to study business administration. My past life experience tells me this is the right path. Zhou Qian and Zhou Rong giggled with their chopsticks between their teeth. We haven't thought it through that much. We'll just study whatever makes money. Once we earn enough, we'll build a big house for grandma and uncle. When it was Yezi's turn, she hesitated for a moment and said softly, actually, I want to study medicine. But almost immediately, she shook her head. Never mind. I should pick something with good job prospects and cheap tuition. The atmosphere fell silent for a moment. I gently clinked my glass against hers. Yezi, you're so clever. Whatever you choose to learn, I know you'll excel at it. Gu Wanzhou suddenly raised his soda bottle too. Here, come on, a toast to us. 5 glass bottles came together with a crisp, ringing clink, a wish come true. Outside the window, the snow continued to fall, while inside, the room was filled with a warm, steamy heat. In each of our eyes shone a light of hope for the future. 14. After New Year's Day, we once again dove into the study until you drop grind. On a snowy day, we welcomed the final exams of the first semester of our senior year. On the day the exams ended, we agreed to celebrate again, but after receiving a call from the teacher's office, Yizi hurriedly packed up and headed home through the heavy snow. Seeing the snow was getting heavier, I suggested we get together again after the new semester starts, and told Zhou Rong and Zhou Qian they should head home too. After all, winter break is only about a week long. After seeing them off, I braved the wind and snow again. The next day, to see Gu Wanzhou off, his father had sent someone to pick him up for the New Year celebrations. Just before he left, he suddenly ran over and gave me a hug. Xingxia, his voice was muffled in my scarf. Do you really not have any feelings for me at all? I hugged him back and answered clearly, of course I do. I think of you as my best friend, just like Yezi and the others. Friends last longer than anything else. He let go of his hand, pretending to be cool as he raised his chin. Alright then, if you change your mind, my arms are always open for you. Ouch. Ouch, ouch. I laughed and punched him a few times, urging him to get in the car quickly. Happy New Year, Gu Wanzhou. See you when school starts. The wheels crunched through the snow and faded into the distance. I turned around. Lu Ming was standing quietly under the old banyan tree at the crossroads. I had no idea how long he'd been watching. Snowflakes had settled thickly on his shoulders. Midsummer, he began softly, a flicker of pain in his eyes. Do you like him? I didn't answer, stepping around him to walk home, but he caught up and grabbed my shoulder, turning me around. You won't even look at me now. Do you have any idea what I've been going through? His fingers dug into my shoulders, his eyes rimmed red. The more time I spend with Shudong, the more I'm reminded of our old days together. That summer, I slapped Lu Ming across the face. Lu Ming, you make me sick. What do you take me and my sister for? Objects for you to pick and choose. Lu Ming seemed hurt by my gaze and suddenly let go. I didn't mean to. I don't know how this happened. I'm sorry to Shudong. But I realized I truly like you. His voice trembled. Xingxia, come back to me. Okay, that's enough. Lu Ming, I cut him off coldly. Don't make me look down on you even more. Is your like such a great thing? It changes as easily as flipping a switch. I left my words behind and turned to go home. 15. The school reopened on the 6th day of the Lunar New Year. Zhou Rong, Zhou Shi, and I arrived first. Gu Wanzhou returned 2 days late and brought us each a scarf as a gift, but even by the 3rd day, Ye's bed remained empty. I went to the teacher's office and was shocked to learn she had dropped out. The teacher vaguely mentioned family reasons and didn't want to elaborate. After I told the other 3, we were all stunned and couldn't focus for the rest of the day. That was, until the teacher handed back last semester's final exams. We barely made it past the undergraduate cutoff, while Yi Z ranked 3rd. That evening during self-study, we decided to visit Yi Z's home over the weekend to get to the bottom of it. That weekend, we trudged through the unmelted snow, asking for directions all the way, and it took us a whole morning to find Yi Z's house. Yi Z was chopping pigweed under the eaves, and upon seeing us, she first smiled with joy, but her smile quickly faded. What are you doing here? She led us into the dimly lit room, where the air was thick with the scent of medicinal herbs. Under our persistent questioning, Yezi slowly revealed the reason she hadn't been going to school. My mother had a fall. She's paralyzed now. Her voice was calm. My dad can't handle it alone. My younger brother and sister have already dropped out of school. If I go to college, this family will really fall apart. Yezi's father brought us freshly brewed tea. He mentioned that he had just arranged a good marriage for Yezi. After the new year, Yezi will go out to work with her fiancé. We panicked and quickly pulled out Yezi's exam paper. Uncle, Yezi's grades are excellent. Do good grades put food on the table? He cut us off, turning to look at Yezi. Girl, this is fate. We've done our absolute best, supporting you all the way through high school. Yezi hung her head in silence after her father turned and left. She suddenly snatched the test paper and flung it into the stove fire before her. Sparks flew up rapidly, only to die out just as quickly. Yezi said, "This is my fate." She saw us to the door, her voice hoarse yet resolute. "Go home now, Xingxia. Even when I'm gone, you must keep striving. Work hard for my sake too, 1,000 times, 10,000 times harder than before. Go on." Yezi closed the door. We walked back in complete silence. That night, Zhou Qian buried herself under the covers, her sobs muffled and choked. Once the tears had subsided, she got up, lit a candle, and opened her book. On Yezi's bed, all her notes were neatly stacked. I opened the math notebook with the most writing in it and said softly, "Don't cry." Yezi said we have to study hard, for her sake too. 16. From that day on, we studied later and later into the night. Even Gu Wenzhou, the biggest troublemaker of us all, had completely settled down and focused. At mealtimes, we would take turns going to the cafeteria to get food and bring it back to the classroom to eat. We ate whatever was quickest, and went right back to grinding through practice problems after finishing a week later. Yezi suddenly showed up at the school gate. We excitedly ran over to greet her, but she smiled and said, "I've come to say goodbye. My fiancé is waiting for me at the station. We're leaving right away." Zhou Qian hugged her tightly and burst into tears. I couldn't help but feel my eyes welling up with tears. Gu Wenzhou suddenly turned and ran off, only to come back shortly with a camera in hand. Then he grabbed a passing classmate. "Excuse me, could you take a photo for us?" Click. In the photo, 5 youthful faces were forever captured in front of the gate of Rongzhen Middle School. With snow falling heavily, I gripped Yezi's hand tightly. "Even if it's just for work, we have to go south, to the coastal cities. That's where the opportunities are." She nodded vigorously, her eyes brimming with tears, yet her smile was bright. "Okay, in the future, I hope you all stay well." We stood in the snow, waving to her without stopping. "Leaf, make sure to write to us once you're settled." We kept shouting to her until the bus carrying her disappeared at the end of the road. Definitely. 17. Time flew by, and our grades steadily improved. With each test and every point gained, we saw that our hard work was paying off. As the college entrance exam approached, I heard that my older sister and Lu Ming had broken up. Her academic performance also slipped from the university admission line down to the college level. I hate to see her fall so low for a man, yet she always deliberately avoids me. The weather turned from cold to hot, and before we knew it, it was July. The night before the college entrance exam, my sister suddenly invited me for a walk by the river. After hesitating for a moment, I went, but she wasn't there. Only Lu Ming was waiting. The moment he saw me, he lunged forward, pinning me down hard on the grass. "Xingxia, don't go to the college entrance exam. Let's go back to how things were." His voice was hoarse, his eyes filled with madness. "I've already broken up with Shudong. You should have been mine in this life and the last." He tried to force a kiss on me, his hands tearing at my clothes, attempting to drag me back to him in the most despicable way. I struggled with all my might, but I couldn't match his strength. In the end, I just coldly stared at him. "Lu Ming, a woman's virtue is never defined by her skirts, in this life or the next. Don't you ever think you can force my hand with such despicable means again." He seemed utterly enraged by my words, his actions growing even more frenzied. Just as I was on the verge of collapsing from exhaustion, my sister suddenly burst onto the scene. "Lu Ming, have you lost your mind? You said you were only here to apologize to Xia. You lied to me." She tried to pull Lu Ming up by his arms, but he shoved her away violently. "Get away from me. If it weren't for you, how could Xia and I have ended up like this?" He seemed to have forgotten that in our past life, he'd rather have thrown himself into the river than stay married to me. "Lu Ming, what a piece of trash." "Lu Ming, you're trash," the sister screamed out loud. In that moment, all the grievances, betrayals, and hatred that had been building up in her eyes erupted. She pushed with all her strength. Lu Ming was caught off guard, his head slamming heavily against a rock by the river, producing a dull thud. Everything around fell silent. My sister trembled, covering her mouth with her hand. I stared in shock at what was happening before me. After a moment, Lu Ming staggered to his feet. He stared at me blankly, his eyes filled with anguish. Finally, clutching his profusely bleeding head, he stumbled away from the riverbank. My sister, her strength gone, collapsed to the ground, then crawled over and held me, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm so sorry, Xia. I'm so sorry. I almost got you killed." I hugged her back tightly, tears falling silently. "It's okay now, sis, it's okay." For a moment there, I thought Lu Ming was dead in my past life. It was just like this, a single push from him, and I died by this very river now. All the hatred and love have dissipated into the night breeze. The next day, I walked into the examination hall with my usual composure and performed steadily. As for Lu Ming, he fell unconscious from a head injury and missed all of his exams just like in my past life. He indirectly ruined my college entrance exam in this life. The outcome turned out to be like this. Shushya. What are you thinking about? Gu Wenzhou waved a hand in front of my eyes. Come on. Let's go eat. The summer of senior year came to an end. The four of us shared a simple meal together. In the end, with tears in our eyes, we said our goodbyes and sealed our promise with a high five. See you at university. 18. My sister stood at the intersection to pick me up. Her hair gently lifted by the evening breeze. She talked to me about the process of filling out college applications. Shushya, where do you want to go? I said I wanted to go to a city in the south. I want to go see the ocean. What about you, sis? My sister just smiled and didn't answer. Then one morning, before I woke up, she quietly packed her bags and left home. It was only later that I found out she had put down a college in a remote northern town on her application, a place so far it felt like it was on the other side of the country. No goodbye, no note. She vanished from my life completely, like a gust of wind. I understood she needed time to heal. Lu Ming decided to repeat his final year of high school. They say he became a different person, withdrawn and silent, burying himself in his studies. September arrived, clutching the admission letter from a prestigious university in the south. I boarded the train leaving my hometown, together with Zhou Rong and Zhou Qian. The platform was a cacophony of voices. My parents' eyes rimmed red as they tried their best to smile. The train began to pull away, and everything outside the window started to stream backwards. That summer that held me captive for what felt like 2 lifetimes, that river shimmering with light, all those tear-soaked entanglements and struggles were finally, completely, left behind. A sudden wave of relief washed over me, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from my shoulders. From then on, with the vast sky above and the open sea before me, I belonged only to myself. Extra story: at the start of our freshman year, we finally received a letter from Yezi. She said she broke up with her fiancé and went to work in a garment factory in Jiangsu and Zhejiang alone. During her junior year, she sent another letter, saying she had started trying her hand at making clothes. By the time I graduated, she had taken over a factory and become a boss. Gu Wenzhou emerged victorious in the family inheritance battle, becoming a wealthy and carefree man. His favorite thing to do was invest in ventures far and wide, and Yezi's factory became one of his earliest and most successful projects. One day, Yezi suddenly called each one of us, mimicking Gu Wenzhou's old manner. She said cheerfully over the phone, "Hey girls, want to come work with me? Sis isn't just tied to the factory anymore." And so, as if fate had already written it, we gathered together again. Sunlight streamed through the bright glass, falling on each of our smiling faces. I looked at them, my heart soft and bright. At this moment, I clearly know that those bitter youth and faded past are truly over, and the summer of our new lives is just beginning. Story 2. After my rebirth, I deliberately arrived late to delay getting our marriage certificate with Gu Wenlin. In our past life, Gu Wenlin vanished for 20 years with Bai Xiaomei. After learning I was pregnant, he only returned when I was on my deathbed. Staring at Bai Xiaomei's funeral portrait, he murmured to me, "Had we delayed our marriage registration by just a day, perhaps everything would have been different." When I realized I'd been reborn, Gu Wenlin was waiting at the dormitory entrance to get our marriage license together. I made up an excuse about delivering something to a co-worker, sending him ahead to the marriage registry. After parting ways with Gu Wenlin, I headed up the mountain. I lounged in Aunt Wang's rocking chair, soaking up the sun while watching the sea of clouds before the house. Aunt Wang handed me a roasted sweet potato and asked curiously, "Aren't you supposed to get your marriage license with Engineer Gu today? What brings you here?" I took a bite of the warm, steaming sweet potato. With a smile, I told her, "Auntie, I had a nightmare. It's been weighing on my mind since I woke up." Aunt Wang comforted me, saying, "It was just a dream. What matters is the life you're living now. Once you marry Engineer Gu, you'll have wonderful days ahead. Why fear nightmares?" I paused for a moment, then nodded with a smile. "Auntie's right. I'll just stay here a little while longer before leaving. Marry Gu Wenlin. Not in this lifetime, in my past life." Right after Gu Wenlin and I got our marriage certificate, we had just stepped out of the registry office. He bumped straight into a young woman. The girl was called Bai Xiaomei, living in the same village where we worked. On our way back, Gu Wenlin remained silent the entire time. I assumed he'd become more cautious around female colleagues now that he was a married man. Little did I know, I wouldn't discover the truth until I was at death's door. That accidental collision made Gu Wenlin fall for Bai Xiaomei at first sight. He wasn't avoiding impropriety, he was drowning in regret. Regretting why he couldn't have waited just one more day to register our marriage. After that day, Gu Wenlin grew noticeably distant toward me. He often stood alone, gazing absent-mindedly toward the village. When I asked why, he dodged the question. After repeated inquiries and with work piling up, I eventually stopped asking. I'll wait until he figures things out and is ready to talk to me. After the village project concluded, Gu Wenlin and I got assigned to different project teams. We had to live apart in separate cities. I thought it would only be temporary, yet with every subsequent assignment, we were posted to opposite ends of the country. When I brought it up with Gu Wenlin, he simply said with indifference, "Follow the organization's arrangements." Until one day when I returned to Beijing for debriefing, it wasn't until I overheard my colleagues' conversation that I realized, except for that first separate assignment, every subsequent time was the result of Gu Wenlin personally requesting approval from superiors. I had a huge fight with Gu Wenlin later. He held me and apologized, but never explained why. At daybreak, Gu Wenlin left. I think my marriage with him has come to an end. Life threw me a curveball. I'm pregnant. After learning about my pregnancy, Gu Wenlin completely dropped his previous aloofness. He started taking thoughtful care of my daily needs. He'd clumsily try his hand at cooking for me, would press his ear against my belly to hear the baby's bubbles, would take evening walks with me every night. Then one day, Gu Wenlin vanished without a trace. I asked so many people, searched for him for so long, no one knew where he'd really gone, and no one could tell me whether he was dead or alive. I began going to prenatal checkups alone, giving birth alone, taking our child to the hospital alone, raising our child alone. He single-handedly arranged funerals for both sets of parents. I thought he was dead, but when I was on my deathbed, he suddenly appeared before me. Only then did I realize he'd been with Bai Xiaomei all these 20 years. They adopted a son and poured all their love into him, but Bai Xiaomei, burdened with sorrow, passed away before him. Her greatest regret was never becoming his wife in this lifetime. Gu Wenlin said he owed me an apology, yet resented me all the same. This makes absolutely no sense to me. If you didn't love me, why didn't you tell me sooner? He could have just divorced me and built a home with Bai Xiaomei instead of abandoning his wife and children, and neglecting his parents. What right does he have to resent me? The son I raised with my own hands now says he envies Gu Wenlin and Bai Xiaomei's adopted child who grew up showered with love. He blames me for bringing him into this world without his consent. Only then did I realize he'd secretly been in contact with his father all along, keeping it from me. I spent an hour at Aunt Wang's place. After saying goodbye to Aunt Wang, I headed straight to the marriage registry. When I arrived at the registry office, I happened to see Gu Wenlin helping Bai Xiaomei up. I noticed Gu Wenlin gazing at Bai Xiaomei, unable to tear his eyes away. The previously annoyed expression transformed into one of awe. In my past life, I was too busy helping Bai Xiaomei up and chatting with her. I failed to notice Gu Wenlin's unusual behavior. Now viewing things from a bystander's perspective, everything was so obvious after all. Wenlin, I'm here. You must have been waiting anxiously. At my sudden appearance, Gu Wenlin froze momentarily before becoming visibly flustered. Oh, man, you're here. I noticed Bai Xiaomei looking at me differently than in our past life. Her expression was complicated, with unmistakable jealousy and resentment in her eyes. By the time I glanced back, she had regained her composure, as if it had all been my imagination. What puzzles me is that we haven't even gotten our marriage certificate in this lifetime. Gu Wenlin crossed paths with Bai Xiaomei earlier than expected. What choice will he make? Break up with me and choose Bai Xiaomei, or repeat his past life, marry me on paper while actually living with Bai Xiaomei? It's getting late. Let's go get our marriage certificate. I feigned urgency. Gu Wenlin's face turned pale. Ouch, my foot hurts. Bai Xiaomei's timely cry of pain shattered the momentary silence. In her previous life, Bai Xiaomei hadn't been injured, so why was she hurt this time, and with such suspiciously perfect timing? Could she have been reborn too? I studied Bai Xiaomei with a scrutinizing gaze, yet found nothing unusual. Gu Wenlin took Bai Xiaomei to the clinic. The doctor said it was just a scratch that would have healed on its own. Bai Xiaomei flushed crimson with embarrassment, but Gu Wenlin couldn't hide his delight. On their way back, they passed by the marriage registry. Gu Wenlin wore a conflicted expression. Man, they're off work now. Should we come back tomorrow? I replied indifferently. We'll see. Getting married requires picking an auspicious date, though truth be told, no such auspicious day would ever come in this lifetime. A faint smile played at the corners of my lips. Gu Wenlin sighed. Alright, I'll talk to Aunt Wang when we get back. Gu Wenlin and I came here by bicycle. On the way back, Bai Xiaomei immediately hopped onto Gu Wenlin's bike without hesitation. Gu Wenlin glanced at me, looking slightly awkward but didn't refuse. I pretended not to see them and rode off on my bike first. A cool Breeze carried the voices of Bai Xiaomei and Gu Wenlin, though I couldn't make out their words. The joy in their tone was unmistakable. There was also Gu Wenlin's deliberately restrained laughter. How long has it been since I last saw Gu Wenlin smile in our past life? It seemed after meeting Bai Xiaomei, Gu Wenlin never smiled at me again, but now, none of that matters to me anymore. As we entered the village, the locals saw Bai Xiaomei riding in Gu Wenlin's car, an arm wrapped around Gu Wenlin's waist. Whenever they glanced my way, it was either a wink or a disapproving cough and head shake. I understood their silent message, but still returned to the dormitory with a smile. Gu Wenlin had already rented a marital home in preparation for the wedding. Most of the belongings have been moved over. Passing by our wedding home, I stopped the car and lingered. The wedding home had 2 bedrooms on either side, a central living room, and a small courtyard. In my past life, returning from the marriage registry, the sight of crimson double happiness characters adorning our home filled me with sweet contentment. Nobody knew that the groom was happily decorating the wedding chamber the day before their marriage registration, yet the flame died on their wedding night. That night became the first of countless lonely nights to come. We lay quietly in bed, doing nothing yet unable to fall asleep. Without waiting for Gu Wenlin's return, I wheeled my bicycle back to the dormitory. The moment I reached the dorm, I pulled out my Beijing transfer papers from the drawer. Officially it was a transfer, but in reality, a promotion and pay raise awaited me back home. In my past life, I'd turned down this opportunity to marry Gu Wenlin. 3 months later, we were transferred to different locations. After that, Gu Wenlin deliberately kept us poles apart. Later, when I got pregnant, Gu Wenlin simply vanished. I had to raise our child alone while supporting both sets of parents. Struggling at work, I was gradually transferred from core departments to peripheral ones. Never got a promotion or raise my entire career. 3. My elementary school son always looked at my mediocre, busy self with disdain. He said, "Other moms look so pretty, why can't you dress up nicely like other people?" What Bai Xiaomei? The more I reminisce, the more horrified I become. So that's when my son had already been in contact with his missing father, yet he kept it from me his entire life. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. At dinner time, Gu Wenlin didn't come looking for me as usual. I went to the cafeteria alone with my lunchbox. In the cafeteria, I saw Gu Wenlin sitting across from Bai Xiaomei. They kept serving each other dishes. Whatever Gu Wenlin said made Bai Xiaomei cover her mouth in laughter. When he saw me, Gu Wenlin froze momentarily before hastily standing up. Man, you're here. Well, Xiaomei just got home and there's no food there, so I brought her for a quick bite. I was actually planning to grab takeout for you later. Didn't expect you to arrive this early, is it? Early, the cafeteria's already nearly empty and there's barely any food left either. I couldn't help remembering my past life. After we got our marriage license, Gu Wenlin suggested grabbing food from the cafeteria. I waited till late before he finally came back. He returned empty-handed. All he said indifferently was, "The cafeteria's out of food, just tough it out tonight." That night, the only sound was my stomach growling with hunger. So this was when Gu Wenlin started taking care of Bai Xiaomei. In our past life, I walked past him without a word, scooped up the leftovers and took them back to the dorm. Midway through the meal, someone knocked on the dorm door. It was Gu Wenlin and Bai Xiaomei. Gu Wenlin looked at me with a complicated expression, clearing his throat softly. Man, I need to discuss something with you." I stared at him in silence. Gu Wenlin glanced at Bai Xiaomei standing beside him, her demeanor cautious and tentative. His eyes softened with tenderness, yet his voice carried newfound resolve when he spoke again. Man, you see, Xiaomei just got back from the city. As you know, she's all alone. Her place has been empty for ages and needs cleaning. Since we haven't registered our marriage yet, I was thinking, maybe we could let Xiaomei stay in our wedding house for a few days temporarily. I glanced at Bai Xiaomei. Bai Xiaomei shrank behind Gu Wenlin like a startled rabbit. Across lifetimes, I've seen 2 completely different versions of Bai Xiaomei. If anyone says Bai Xiaomei hasn't been reborn, I won't believe it, but I don't have time for her little act. I'm done with this man. No matter what Bai Xiaomei does, it's all just unnecessary in my eyes. Fine, it's your house, you call the shots. Gu Wenlin never expected me to agree so readily. The prepared speech suddenly stuck in his throat, leaving him at a loss for words. But I don't like people touching my things. I'll come collect my belongings later. Gu Wenlin paused briefly before hastily saying, No need, I'll move your things to another room." So he didn't just want Bai Xiaomei to stay in our marital home after all, still want her sleeping in our wedding bed. I saw Bai Xiaomei's lips curl into a smile too. After dinner, I took a flashlight to tidy up in the bridal chamber. When I arrived, Gu Wenlin was busy making the bed for Bai Xiaomei. They're still using the brand new bed sheets I carefully picked out for our wedding night. Gu Wenlin looked surprised to see me. Man, what brings you here? I've already put your things in my room, I acknowledged with a nod and turned to fetch my belongings from the adjacent room. Gu Wenlin caught up with me, his expression unreadable, eyes clouded with emotions I couldn't decipher. Man, just then, Bai Xiaomei came running out of the room. Brother Wenlin, isn't that bedsheet meant for your wedding with Sister Man? Wouldn't it be improper to let me use it, really? I don't mind sleeping on dirty laundry, Xiaomei's voice trailed off into a whisper. I noticed the tenderness in Gu Wenlin's eyes when he looked at her. He turned to me. Man, look, all the bedsheets at home are brand new, especially this one. There was no way I'd miss that fleeting smugness in Bai Xiaomei's eyes. Little did she know, I'd already decided to dump that scumbag Gu Wenlin the moment I was reborn. I shrugged indifferently. This bedsheet was bought with your money, your call. Thanks, Sister Man and Brother Wenlin, you're so kind to me. Wow, I never thought I'd get to stay in Brother Wenlin's marital home and sleep in his wedding bed someday. Something about those words felt off, and Gu Wenlin sensed it too, but he just glanced at me without speaking, as if testing my limits. After speaking, Bai Xiaomei seemed to realize something, covering her mouth with an exaggerated look of guilt. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, Sister Man, please don't misunderstand. There's really nothing between me and Brother Wenlin. Maybe I should just sleep in my dirty clothes instead. She reached for the soiled garments in her bag. Gu Wenlin quickly stopped her. I reassured Bai Xiaomei, it's fine, don't worry about it, really not a big deal. Gu Wenlin couldn't read anything from my expression and stood there lost in thought. I was too busy packing to pay him any attention. Bai Xiaomei's clumsy attempts to cover up only made things more obvious. She just wanted to provoke me, playing the vulnerable victim in front of Gu Wenlin, make Gu Wenlin despise me for but having lived a second life. Why would I care? The only thing she should be grateful for is that she didn't mess with me in our past lives. She's still not making enough trouble this lifetime. I leaned close to Bai Xiaomei and whispered in her ear, don't overthink it, little sister. Why would I mind? Your Wenlin brother only has your best interests at heart. That's perfectly understandable. I wouldn't object even if he married you, though whether he actually would is another matter. I turned to look at Bai Xiaomei, then winked at her with a playful smile. Bai Xiaomei's face darkened at these words. She couldn't comprehend how I'd become so different from that gullible, easily manipulated homeman of the past, but soon she realized something, and when she looked at me again, her face lit up with smug satisfaction. I packed up my belongings. Shouldering the bundle, I prepared to leave. Gu Wenlin suddenly called out to me from behind. He stepped forward, reaching for the pack on my back. I refused him. Ridiculous. Bai Xiaomei had been reborn. In her past life, she'd spent it all as the other woman. This time around, I'm here to make it official. She treats Gu Wenlin like her personal property. I don't want any part of that mess. Gu Wenlin noticed me pulling away. His eyes filled with hurt when he looked at me. Man, are you upset with me? Let me explain. How ironic. The man who'd rather waste my entire lifetime than speak his mind in our past life. Now in this life, he finally finds his voice, but I already know what he's going to say. Nothing but emotional detachment disguised as care. Explanations, totally unnecessary. Besides, Bai Xiaomei would never agree. Just as I thought. Hearing Bai Xiaomei scream, Gu Wenlin immediately abandoned seeing me off and rushed back inside. I scoffed, adjusted the pack on my back, and walked away. In my past life, I was married to Gu Wenlin for 21 years before dying at 45. That's what you'd call dying young. When I gave birth to that ungrateful wretch, I nearly bled to death. During labor, that's when my health took a serious turn for the worse. Before I could fully recover, I had to single-handedly care for my son. On top of that, I had to deal with Gu Wenlin's unreasonable, demanding parents, all while holding down a job and searching everywhere for Gu Wenlin. My health has been deteriorating day by day. Raising my son to adulthood at 20 was the absolute limit of what I could achieve through sheer determination. I haven't had a decent night's sleep since Gu Wenlin's disappearance. Given this second chance at life, I chose not to marry Gu Wenlin. Never burned the candle at both ends. The body remains in good health. I can finally get a proper night's sleep. Slept soundly without dreams, the first truly restful sleep in what feels like lifetimes. The next day, I requested leave from my supervisor and informed them about my decision to accept the transfer back to Beijing. My supervisor looked puzzled. But didn't you say you didn't want to be separated from Mr. Gu? After marrying him, I shook my head. I won't be marrying him, right now. My career is what matters most to me. A pleased smile spread across my supervisor's face as they looked at me. In my past life, my boss had also advised me. 6, he said, with your abilities, you could aim much higher. I was completely blinded by that scumbag and threw away such a golden opportunity. I asked my boss to cover for my departure. I've already discussed and agreed on my departure time with the boss. After leaving the manager's office, I headed straight to the train station. Train tickets were hard to come by during this season, requiring long hours in line. As I cycled past our would-be marital home through the picket fence, Gu Wenlin and Bai Xiaomei could be seen squatting side by side in the yard, brushing their teeth with practiced ease. Gu Wenlin took a towel from the clothesline and personally wiped Bai Xiaomei's hands. Bai Xiaomei gazed at him with unmistakable tenderness in her eyes. It seemed their relationship had undergone a quantum leap overnight. Saw me cycling past the entrance. Gu Wenlin paled and quickly distanced himself from Bai Xiaomei. I averted my gaze, ignoring both his guilty conscience and her wounded look. Following my memory, I arrived at the train station. After paying to store my bicycle, I followed the crowd into the ticket hall. During this time, every traveler was laden with all sorts of bags and bundles, from tiny sewing kits to bulky quilts and baskets. People hauled everything they could onto the train. Watching the sea of people, I ultimately decided to travel as light as possible, especially for bulky items that take up space. Sell what you can, and give away what you can't. After waiting in line forever, I still opted for the sleeper ticket over the standing one. I suffered enough in my past life. This time, I'm putting myself first. By the time I left the train station, it was already afternoon. After what feels like a lifetime, inexperienced as I was, I forgot to bring snacks while waiting in line. I skipped lunch to buy train tickets, and now I'm starving to the point my stomach's touching my backbone. After asking around, I finally found the state-run restaurant Gu Wenlin and I visited in what seems like a past life. Back then, we had our blind date here after being introduced by a coworker. Gu Wenlin is quite handsome with fair skin, just my type, clean-cut and presentable. Plus, we're both in technical professions and our families are both based in Beijing. Back then I thought it would make family visits much easier in the future. He was quite pleased with my appearance too. We decided to give it a shot. During our relationship, he wasn't exactly doting, but he treated me decently enough in daily life. He looked after me in every way. 7. He'd work through tough professional challenges alongside me. Ours wasn't a love story with heart-fluttering passion. It was more about compatibility. I thought we'd spend our lives in quiet contentment together. Never expected him to drop that bombshell out of the blue. Gu Wenlin proposed to me after just 2 months of dating. Back then, I could tell he was genuinely happy to marry me, but childhood sweethearts can't compete with fate's surprises. The appearance of Bai Xiaomei made his heart flutter. His emotions began to wander. Love knows no beginning, yet runs deep, but he really shouldn't have. Love shouldn't be an excuse to selfishly abandon everything and waste my life away. After parking my bicycle, I entered the state-run restaurant. The place wasn't crowded at this hour. That's how I immediately spotted Gu Wenlin and Bai Xiaomei sitting in the corner. Xiaomei Bai was the first to spot me. She stood up and waved enthusiastically in my direction. Sister Man, are you here for lunch? Wenlin and I were just about to eat. Why don't you join us? Don't be shy. It's just an extra pair of chopsticks. Truly the masterclass green tea bitch who stole someone's husband for over 2 decades. Just 2 sentences and she's already positioning herself as the main attraction. How embarrassing. I hope I'm not interrupting your date, I said with a knowing smile. Glancing at Gu Wenlin visibly panicked. He hastily stood up to pull out a chair for me. Oh, sis Man, don't get the wrong idea. My relationship with brother Wenlin isn't what you think. He just thinks I'm too skinny and wants to help me put on some weight. Great. Just had to let her show off again. Ignoring Gu Wenlin's gesture, I walked over and sat down beside Bai Xiaomei. Gu Wenlin rubbed his nose awkwardly before sitting back down. I was stunned by the lavish spread of meat and fish on the table. Damn, this feast must have cost Gu Wenlin half a month's salary. He's unbelievably generous when it comes to Bai Xiaomei. Bai Xiaomei served me a piece of braised pork. Sis Man, try the braised pork here. Brother Wenlin said it's the best he's ever had. He insisted on ordering it for me. He even promised to get me a takeaway portion before we leave. Here, have a taste, and the fish, you must try the fish too. I've never had fish this delicious. Brother Wenlin said he knows how to cook it, and he'll make it for me often after we get back. Gu Wenlin can cook. Back when I was pregnant in my past life, he was all thumbs in the kitchen, constantly dropping pots and breaking dishes. In the end, I had to shove him out of the kitchen and cook myself. Turns out love can be faked after all. I took the braised pork and savored it carefully. Absolutely delicious. Things from this era are the real deal. This pork is absolutely delicious, and this river fish, not a trace of that metallic aftertaste, just pure freshness. I was savoring every bite, completely tuning out whatever Bai Xiaomei was saying. Ah, Bai Xiaomei suddenly shrieked, startling me so badly I nearly dropped my chopsticks. Sorry Man, I just got startled by a fish bone. Where was I? Oh right, Man. Have you ever tried Wenlin's cooking? If not, you should come over tonight. He promised to cook for me, right, Wen Lin, ha, scared by a fish bone, now that's what I call terrifying. Bai Xiaomei clearly couldn't stand seeing my indifferent attitude any longer. You even pretended to choke on a fishbone just to remind me, keep showing off. By all means, let's see who you'll flaunt to after I'm gone. You're so lucky, Xiaomei. I've known Wen Lin for ages and never knew he could cook, yet after just 2 days, he's already offering to make you dinner. Thanks to you, I get to enjoy a good meal tonight. They were trying to drive me crazy with jealousy. Little did they know, I couldn't care less. Bai Xiaomei was stunned. Gu Wenlin's face kept shifting between pale and livid. I kept eating, completely ignoring their reactions. When my scallion tofu dish arrived, I slid it toward Bai Xiaomei and Gu Wenlin, inviting them to share. The dinner table grew much quieter afterward. At last, I could eat in peace. After leaving the state-run restaurant, I said goodbye to Bai Xiaomei and Gu Wenlin before cycling away. I'm heading to the post office to call my parents. In my past life after Gu Wenlin disappeared, I single-handedly raised our child while caring for his aging parents and holding down a job. Every day was a whirlwind of non-stop busyness. For some reason, despite coming from a family just as respectable as theirs, Mr. and Mrs. Gu always looked down on me. Not only did they refuse to help with childcare, but they went out of their way to make life difficult for me. The moment I showed them the slightest cold shoulder, they'd make a scene at my workplace. Back then, landing a stable job was hard enough, let alone supporting a son on my own, so I bit my tongue and endured it. When my parents heard about my situation, they helped me out a lot while taking care of their grandchildren. They were thinking of finding someone else to marry me off to, but when Mr. and Mrs. Gu found out, they stormed over to confront my parents. They accused our family of trying to drive the elderly couple to their deaths. What's worse, whenever a gentleman showed interest in meeting me, Gu's mother would follow behind with my son in tow. Then she'd make the child run to me crying and making a scene. Gradually, no one was willing to arrange matches for me anymore, so I gave up on remarrying and devoted myself entirely to raising my son. During this time, my parents endured many hardships because of my in-laws, but what weighed on them most was their concern for me. Even in their final moments, I remained their deepest concern. How absurd. The call connected almost instantly. Hearing my parents' voices again after what felt like a lifetime, I broke down in tears. They caught the tremor in my voice. My parents were extremely worried. They thought Gu Wenlin had been mistreating me. They were so angry they wanted to confront him immediately. I calmed them down and explained everything that had happened recently, including my decision. There was a long silence on the other end of the line with my parents. Finally, they simply said they'd respect my decision if it was well considered. Only then did I feel relieved. I told them about my transfer back to Beijing. The train ticket is for 3 days from now. Mom and Dad promised to cook all my favorite dishes and wait for me at home. Back at the dorm, I opened the door. Oh, there sat Gu Wenlin at my desk, flipping through study materials. Almost forgot, he's got a copy of my dorm key too. Seeing the drawer with my transfer report locked, I breathed a sigh of relief. With things still unclear between Gu Wenlin and me, I didn't want any last-minute surprises before leaving. Noticing my return, Gu Wenlin hastily stood up to pour me some water. He had something to say, but kept hesitating to speak up. I sat on the bed, sipping tea slowly while waiting for him to talk. Finally, he couldn't hold back anymore. He turned to face me. Man, it's not what you think between Xiaomei and me. I swallowed the tea in my mouth and said coolly, what exactly do you think I'm imagining? Gu Wenlin choked on his words. If I were still Ho Man from my past life, I'd believe him regardless of whether he explained or not. But after all, I'm someone who's lived a full lifetime, who's witnessed and endured my own tragic existence. Even if Gu Wenlin explained it 1,000 times, to me it's all bullshit. On my deathbed in my past life, he said it right by my side. He fell head over heels for Bai Xiaomei at first sight. It was true love. Nothing like what we ever had. I felt more like the other woman in his relationship with Bai Xiaomei, a flaw, a thorn in the flesh. Man, believe it or not, I just thought, with both her parents gone, Bai Xiaomei's all alone in this world. I only wanted to look out for her a little more. Gu Wenlin's eyes darted nervously as he explained. He wouldn't even look me in the eye. How could I possibly trust him? Yet I said it anyway. Fine, I believe you. Now would you mind leaving? I'm exhausted and need rest. Oh, and leave my dorm key before you go. Gu Wenlin's face instantly froze. Clearly he could tell I didn't believe him. After Gu Wenlin left, I wiped down the chair he'd been sitting on. Filthy, absolutely filthy. I started packing up my things. I haven't accumulated much during these 6 months working here, just some clothes, bedding, and daily necessities. What really needs sorting out are those wedding items I bought with Gu Wenlin. Looks like I'll need to settle accounts with Gu Wenlin. Before leaving, just then, a knock came at the door. It was Gu Wenlin. He was holding a pastry box in his hands. He cheerfully offered it to me. Here, man, open it and see. I took the pastry box and opened it to find cash and vouchers inside. Gu Wenlin said with a smile, "I've been ready for this. After we're married, you'll manage all my money. Just give me my monthly allowance on time." Staring at Gu Wenlin before me, I suddenly felt he was a stranger in my past life. Forget about handing over my paycheck. After we got married, I never saw a single penny from him. When I hemorrhaged during childbirth, his parents didn't contribute a dime and even said, "Let her die. Keeping her alive is just wasting money." It was my parents and my brother and his wife who paid the doctors to save me. That's how I survived. I was the one covering all the medical expenses for his parents' illnesses and their funeral costs during those 20 years of Gu Wenlin's disappearance. He secretly kept in touch with his son. He probably contacted his parents too, whether he gave them money or not. I've got no idea. All I know is that before Mrs. Gu passed away, she called my son into her room. When my son came out, though he tried hard to appear grief-stricken, I could still see that glint of secret delight in his eyes. After the funeral, I searched her room but found nothing of value. Later I fell ill, but with no money for treatment, I could only endure it. The delay dragged on until my final flicker of consciousness. It occurred to me that in my past life, Gu Wenlin might have known I needed money for treatment. The thought that my son might be hoarding money from his grandmother, yet unwilling to spend it on my illness. A dull ache settled in my chest. Gu Wenlin saw me suddenly trembling all over. He rushed forward to steady me. I shoved him away, leaning against the wall. It took me quite a while to recover. 9. When I looked at Gu Wenlin again, my eyes held nothing but cold detachment. Gu Wenlin's heart skipped a beat. I stared at the money inside the metal box. Since Gu Wenlin had brought the money, I certainly won't let myself be shortchanged. Past life debts can never be settled, but this lifetime's accounts will be balanced. I took out half of our wedding expenses from the box, handed the remaining money and the box to Gu Wenlin. Gu Wenlin looked puzzled by my actions but didn't ask anything. Even the most oblivious person could sense the change in me. He couldn't comprehend what had happened in those brief minutes. I could sense something spiraling out of control. After confirming I was unharmed, he left reluctantly with frequent backward glances. I had a restless night's sleep. The past life I witnessed. Gu's parents told Wenlin about my life-threatening hemorrhage during childbirth. Wenlin just gave a faint him over the phone. Later I discovered that while our son was still an infant, Gu's parents secretly took him to see Wenlin behind my back. Wenlin knew I'd been searching for him, yet he conspired with everyone to keep me in the dark. No wonder those who knew him kept tight-lipped around me. I even dreamed about colleagues I'd worked with for years in my past life. They sang praises of Gu Wenlin and Bai Xiaomei's love story. As for me, his wife, I was just their punchline about the matchmaking god drunkenly tying the wrong red thread. How utterly ridiculous. I woke from the dream to find my pillow soaked with tears. Yet I'm still alive, healthy, and alive. Life still holds possibilities, doesn't it? I spent the next 2 days busy with work handover. I made plans with Bai Xiaomei to try Gu Wenlin's home cooking, probably because the money box incident that night was quietly dropped. I thought that was the end of it, but that evening, Bai Xiaomei showed up at my door. She invited me over for dinner. Not wanting to refuse her kindness, I accepted. When dinner time came, I arrived with a gift in hand. Peering through the picket fence, I saw Bai Xiaomei and Gu Wenlin locked in an embrace. Gu Wenlin's hand kneaded at Bai Xiaomei's most tender spot. When he saw me, his face turned deathly pale. Bai Xiaomei looked utterly terrified too. She frantically tried to fasten her nearly undone buttons. Without a word, I turned and walked away. I enjoyed the dinner Bai Xiaomei treated me to tonight, but there's no need for gifts. 10. Not long after I left, Gu Wenlin came running after me. He grabbed my arm, urgently trying to explain. Man, let me explain. It's not what you think between Xiaomei and me. Oh really? Was it you two embracing with disheveled clothes? Or was it your hands wandering where they shouldn't be? These past couple days, though busy with the job handover, I've heard plenty from Aunt Wang's gossip. Aunt Wang absolutely despises homewreckers, especially someone like Bai Xiaomei, who not only knowingly became the other woman but also had the audacity to flaunt it in front of the wife. She kept giving live updates about Gu Wenlin and Bai Xiaomei's disgusting affairs. Villagers witnessed Bai Xiaomei deliberately brushing her body against Gu Wenlin, who didn't even try to avoid it. People saw Bai Xiaomei and Gu Wenlin sharing a single bowl of food. Someone saw Bai Xiaomei and Gu Wenlin holding hands in a secluded spot. The Gu Wenlin standing before me now looked rather disheveled. I couldn't comprehend why he'd done so much with Bai Xiaomei, yet he still came running to me, begging me not to misunderstand. Do you expect me to stay home taking care of his parents like last time while he's out there being lovey-dovey with Bai Xiaomei? Before Bai Xiaomei showed up, I was the only one who could get close to you. She'd barely been here an hour when you carried her to the hospital. You let her wrap her arms around your waist on your bike after knowing her for barely 3 hours. After just 5 hours of acquaintance, you ditched me to take her to the cafeteria. Within 7 hours of meeting her, you let her move into our bridal suite, sleep in our marital bed, using the wedding linens I'd carefully prepared. After a single day, you're willing to blow half a month's salary treating her to fancy dinners. After knowing her for barely a day, you're already cooking meals for her with your own hands. You don't shy away from her touch, sharing meals from the same bowl, holding hands intimately. Now you're embracing him, caressing her. How can you stand there and swear to me that nothing happened between you? Do you really expect me to believe that? My increasingly shocking words sent Gu Wenlin's body trembling uncontrollably. His lips quivered, yet no words escaped them. Let me guess why you're so terrified of my misunderstanding, why you're desperate to explain, even throwing money at me to make me believe you. On the very day we were supposed to get our marriage license, you fell head over heels for Bai Xiaomei. She fancied you too, so she faked an injury to stop us from registering. Back then, you'd fallen for Bai Xiaomei and didn't actually want to go through with our marriage registration. 11. But these past few days, you've probably come to realize you love Bai Xiaomei and want to share romantic moments with her. I looked straight into Gu Wenlin's eyes and said deliberately, yet at the same time, you need a dutiful wife to care for your parents. Even better if this wife could see them through their final years, am I right? At my last words, Gu Wenlin's head jerked up, his eyes filled with disbelief. Seeing his shocked expression actually broke my heart. What pains me is wasting a lifetime on someone so calculating. It hurts to realize those fleeting moments of marital sweetness I imagined were just a cruel joke. I can't lie to myself anymore. Likewise, I won't let Gu Wenlin keep deceiving me. That evening, I returned to my dorm to pack my belongings for departure. Just then, Bai Xiaomei showed up unexpectedly. She glared at me with pure malice. Haoman, so you're back too, huh? Seeing my calm expression, she let out a derisive snort. When she looked at me again, her eyes were full of contempt and mockery. What? Did it matter that you occupied the position of Wenlin's wife in your past life? You still ended up being his parents' lifelong servant. The son you worked so hard to raise secretly called me mom behind your back. Ha, isn't that hilarious? Your husband is mine, and so is your son. Even though you've been reborn this lifetime, you can't change the fact that Wenlin loves me. I will be his wife in this life. It can only be me. Though I'd already been utterly disappointed in my son from the previous life, hearing him secretly call Bai Xiaomei mom still made my heart ache. Thank goodness, this time, whether he agrees or not, I won't bring him into this world. Bai Xiaomei strutted around like a victorious rooster, yammering endlessly in front of me. I could see pity, sympathy, and compassion in her eyes when she looked at me. Everything but anger. She fled in panic. To me, she's just another pitiful soul like myself. Without me covering for her and Gu Wenlin this lifetime, can they still live as happily as they did in their past life? In the dead of night, unable to sleep, I stepped out of the dorm to gaze at the moon. A dark figure sitting by the doorway gave me quite a start. By the light spilling from inside, I recognized Gu Wenlin. The heavy stench of alcohol clung to him. I've lost track of how long I've been sitting here. Even with a second chance at life, I still can't figure him out. I grabbed a flashlight and went looking for Bai Xiaomei. Bai Xiaomei visibly froze when I asked her to pick up Gu Wenlin, yet without a word, she followed me back to the dorm. Gu Wenlin had fallen asleep, and Bai Xiaomei struggled to drag her away. I didn't lift a finger. If she fell for the guy, she could clean up her own mess. The next morning, as I was heading out with my luggage, Aunt Wang came looking for me. She dragged me along to see the drama unfold. I followed her all the way to what used to be Gu Wenlin's and my marital home. There stood Gu Wenlin, livid with rage, glaring at Bai Xiaomei, who sat disheveled on the floor. Turns out, after Bai Xiaomei took Gu Wenlin home last night, I kept thinking about how Gu Wenlin chased after me, then returned looking utterly devastated, and how he passed out drunk right outside my dorm room. Even in his sleep, he kept calling my name. She couldn't sit still any longer. She took advantage of Gu Wenlin's drunken state, even when he mistook her for me, and slept with him. After piecing together what happened from the villagers, I was utterly disgusted. Grabbing my luggage, I turned to leave, but Gu Wenlin grabbed my arm abruptly. Man, let me explain. This scumbag just won't quit, will he? I took a deep breath and stared at him with unflinching calm. Gu Wenlin, I thought I made myself perfectly clear to you yesterday. He searched my eyes, hoping to find some lingering affection for him, but to his dismay, all he saw was the indifference one shows to a stranger. No anger, because there was no care left to lose. 12. Without anger, there's no resentment. He finally realized I truly didn't care about him anymore. Gu Wenlin weakly released his grip on my hand. In a muffled voice behind me, he whispered softly, I'm sorry. What exactly are you apologizing for? This lifetime, or our past life? I left Yuanshan village, returned to the capital. Seeing my healthy, happy parents again completely broke me. Every day since my rebirth, I may appear carefree, but there's always a mountain weighing on my heart that was my entire life, a life so heavy it suffocates. How could I possibly let it go so easily? Gu Wenlin and Bai Xiaomei deserve nothing less than death by 1,000 cuts, but I have my parents, my brother and sister-in-law. I can't let two worthless scum ruin my second chance at life. Seeing my parents still healthy and unaffected by my troubles at this very moment, I finally felt the relief of having a weight lifted off my shoulders. Spent a few heartwarming days with my parents, full of parental love and filial devotion. I threw myself back into work without the burden of caring for my son and parents. My work performance improved remarkably. Soon enough, I got promoted with a pay raise. I was even appointed as a university professor, fulfilling my lifelong dream of becoming an educator. The next time I heard about Gu Wenlin was a year later. Bai Xiaomei ultimately realized her past life's ambition. She married Gu Wenlin and became his lawful wife. Shortly after their wedding, Gu Wenlin took her back to the capital. Gu's parents were anything but easy to deal with. In my past life, despite coming from a good family and having a decent job, they still looked down on me. They treated Bai Xiaomei, who was unemployed, with even more contempt, so they pulled out all the stops to make Bai Xiaomei's life miserable. The Gu household was in constant chaos. Gu Wenlin wanted to take Bai Xiaomei away, but his parents objected vehemently, making an absolute scene. They believe Bai Xiaomei, being unemployed, is marrying above her station by wedding their son. The mere thought of Bai Xiaomei ruining my plans with their son makes my blood boil. They're absolutely seething with hatred. Under no circumstances would they allow Gu Wenlin to take Bai Xiaomei away. They kept Bai Xiaomei around just to exploit her like a beast of burden. Romantic moonlit nights can't compete with the grind of daily survival. Over time, Gu Wenlin saw Bai Xiaomei for what she truly was, nothing special. Without Gu Wenlin's love, Bai Xiaomei was no different from any vulgar shrew on the streets. Not long after, Gu Wenlin requested a transfer, this time leaving Bai Xiaomei behind. Later, word got out that Bai Xiaomei fought back. She and Gu's parents tormented each other, living in utter misery. Eventually, rumors surfaced that Gu Wenlin had an affair. In a fit of rage, Bai Xiaomei rushed to the workplace and reported Gu Wenlin. She accused Gu of sexually assaulting her while drunk during their time in Yuanshan village. That's something I didn't see coming. As expected, no woman who'd willingly be a lifelong mistress to a scumbag is ever a pushover. To my surprise, it was Gu Wenlin. In our past life, he resented me because of Bai Xiaomei's single regret. Gazing at Bai Xiaomei's memorial portrait, he was utterly heartbroken. Watching me leave, he was consumed by remorse and anguish. Never in my life have I seen him show any lasting devotion to Bai Xiaomei. 12. Turns out I overestimated him. A rotten to the core narcissist could never genuinely repent, just the bitterness of loss and unfulfilled desires. Thankfully, in this lifetime, I've broken free from that cage. The road ahead shines bright with promise. The end. Story 2. 40 years ago, Shen Shubai reluctantly married me after I donated part of my liver to save his mother, but throughout our marriage, he remained emotionally distant despite our outward harmony. During our Ruby anniversary livestream, the drone formation suddenly reconfigured. The original Happy Ruby Anniversary message transformed into Forever Mourning My Beloved Ching Wanqiu. My blood ran cold as I watched drones swirl overhead, forming Su Wanqiu's youthful college likeness. I became the world's greatest laughingstock, yet when the scaffolding collapsed, he threw himself over me without hesitation. With his dying breath, he painfully removed his wedding ring. Su Jingyi, a life for a life. We're even now. At the funeral, the twins I'd risked my life to bear regarded me with bone-deep hatred. Are you happy now? Dad's been on antidepressants since we could remember. His diary was filled with Aunt Wanqiu's name. If you hadn't exploited his gratitude back then, Dad would never have lost the love of his life and been separated from Aunt Wanqiu forever. Everyone believes I indirectly caused Qing Wanqiu's untimely death. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in 1984. This time, I chose to walk away the moment Shen Shubai knelt down. 1. Jingyi, you're the only one who can save my mother. The antiseptic smell pierced my nostrils like countless tiny needles. I took half a step back, my lower back pressing against the metal railing in the hospital corridor as I stared at the man before me. I can't believe I've truly traveled back to this pivotal day over 40 years ago, when everyone's lives quietly changed course. In my past life, when Shen Shubai's mother needed a liver transplant for cirrhosis, we all went for compatibility tests. Only Shen's girlfriend Qing Wanqiu and I were matches. Qing made excuses about having fatty liver disease and refused, so when the normally proud Shen Shubai knelt before me begging, I agreed to donate part of my liver to save his mother. But later, this caused a rift between him and Qing Wanqiu. In his drunken misery, he mistook me for her and got me pregnant on our wedding day. Qin Wanqiu took her own life with poison. Shen Shubai lived in perpetual melancholy, resenting me till his dying day. I still remember the longing in Shen Shubai's eyes as he watched Qin Wanqiu's memorial tribute looping on the LED screen during his final moments. My nails dug deep into my palms. Now I can finally rewrite my life story. Jingyi, my mother watched you grow up. How could you bear to let her die? Shen Shubai stepped forward, eyes red-rimmed as he seized my hand. Unlike my previous life, I remained unmoved and gently freed my hand from his grasp. I've researched this. Mild fatty liver doesn't affect transplantation. As long as Qin Wanqiu is willing, Wanqiu can't. Shen Shubai instinctively cut me off. She's been frail since childhood. She wouldn't survive this. My chest tightened with bitterness. His heart ached for Qin Wanqiu. Yet when I suffered daily from liver donation complications in our past life, he remained indifferent. Seeing me lower my eyes in silence, Shen Shubai gritted his teeth and dropped to his knees. Jingyi, I'm begging you. His sobs cut through the empty hallway. I know you've always had feelings for me. If you can save my mother, I'll do anything you ask. If I can't save her, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. No, if I save your mother, that's what you'll regret forever. I shook my head. My 4 decades of hollow marriage and wasted life all stemmed from that moment of weakness when I donated part of my liver to save his mother. The light in Shen Shubai's eyes extinguished as he collapsed to the floor, staring at me in utter disbelief. Without waiting for another word, I turned and walked out of the hospital as Shen Shubai's sobs faded down the corridor. I finally exhaled in relief. After 40 years of domestic drudgery in my past life, exhausting myself raising children day and night, I'll never step into that prison called marriage again. In our previous life, Shen Shubai lived in resentment, hating me until his dying breath. This lifetime, I'm bowing out gracefully from this 3-way entanglement. May they walk hand in hand through life's changing seasons, wherever the road may lead. After returning from the hospital, I was utterly exhausted and slipped into a nightmare haze too. After struggling through the fog for what felt like ages, I finally managed to pry my eyes open. A hoarse male voice laced with weariness came from beside the bed. Awake, 23-year-old Shen Shubai sat with stubble shadowing his jaw, his bloodshot eyes visible behind smudged glasses. If not for his youthful appearance, the tenderness in his gaze almost made me believe I was still his wife, as if everything else had just been a dream. The thermal pot on the bedside metal cabinet still steamed with freshly kept warmth. Shen Shubai scooped a spoonful of soup, gently blew away the surface oil, and waited for the steam to fade before bringing it to my lips. Careful, it's hot. His voice was laced with tenderness, amber eyes gazing intently at me. I weakly turned my head away, a pang of bitterness rising in my chest. In this lifetime, I want no further entanglement with him whatsoever. Shen Shubai and I grew up together, and I've adored him since childhood. This was probably the first time I'd ever avoided his touch. No wonder he looked startled. What's wrong? Fever got you delirious, he chuckled, reaching up to affectionately ruffle my hair. I remembered those same hands in our past life, how they'd shielded me from collapsing scaffolding, and how they'd resolutely removed our wedding ring, vowing to trade his life for mine. I shook my head without a word. He hesitated before speaking. Jingyi, about yesterday, I was too hasty. I shouldn't have guilt-tripped you. A self-deprecating smile tugged at the corners of my lips. I'm sorry. Shen Shubai treated me impeccably in every way, except loving me back. During the sweltering midsummer days, he'd personally chisel frozen red bean paste for me with an iron spoon. Milk was a rare luxury in my childhood, yet he'd always slip a bottle, warmed in his palms, into my desk before morning reading ended. On our way home from school, he always walked on the roadside, shielding me from traffic. When heavy rain came, he'd instantly drape his school jacket over our heads. His shirt collar got soaked, yet he kept tilting the makeshift umbrella to ensure not a single drop touched me. He was the boy next door who'd fight me for comic books, yet always healed my fragility with tenderness and patience. I've always considered him my closest friend and sturdiest emotional anchor, yet in the end, it was he who hurt me the most. I lowered my gaze to hide the welling bitterness, keeping my voice steady as ever. It's fine. How's your mother doing? Shen Shubai's eyes suddenly lit up, his voice brimming with excitement. Mom's getting surgery soon. My distant cousin was a perfect match. He's in great health and agreed to donate part of his liver for her. How wonderful. Watching the corners of his eyes crinkle into gentle crescents, I couldn't help but smile in response. Truly wonderful. This way, there won't be any more misunderstandings between him and Qin Wanqiu. They'll make a wonderful couple and walk smoothly down the aisle. Get some rest first. The Shawshank Redemption is showing tonight. I'll take you to see it. My heart swelled with emotion. This radiant version of Shen Shubai was someone I hadn't seen in 40 years, not since Qin Wanqiu's suicide. That's wonderful. Let me steal just one more day before saying my final goodbye tomorrow. After tomorrow, I'll stay far away from him. After Shinshubai left, I groggily reached for the porcelain cup on the bedside. 3. In a clumsy moment, all the water inside spilled onto the bag beside me. Only then did I realize Shinshubai had left his bag behind. Seeing the cloth bag getting soaked, I hurriedly took out its contents. My fingers brushed against an unfamiliar hardness, the slightly curled corner of a crimson notebook, its title page bearing the deeply inked characters for Wancho. I knew I shouldn't pry into others' love affairs, yet some inexplicable urge made me turn to the first page. Today you wore a cherry blossom pink dress. When you smiled beneath the wisteria, I forgot to breathe. Between the yellowed pages lay dried petals from the wisteria outside the auditorium on graduation day. Flipping further, a train timetable was pasted on the next page. When spring break comes, I'll take you to Beidei on an old green train. You said you wanted to see the real ocean. We'll leave our shoes on the sand and let the sky, sea, and waves witness our love. On the last page was a carefully saved ration coupon, with the same phrase written repeatedly in fountain pen beside it. When I've saved up 30 pounds of grain coupons, I'll get the recommendation letter from the factory. Wancho, I want to call you my wife openly and proudly. Watching the willow catkins drift outside the window, I suddenly felt the notebook in my hands burning too hot to hold. This must be that diary filled with Aunt Wancho's name that my daughter mentioned in our past life. On so many anniversaries, I'd playfully tell him I didn't want gifts. Just a love letter from him, yet he always claimed to be inarticulate, unable to express himself. But with Ching Wancho, his honeyed words flowed effortlessly. So it wasn't that he couldn't write, he simply didn't love me. The next day, I waited the entire day without Shinshubai showing up. The movie had long ended, and worried about him, I retraced my steps along the road to the cinema. On the way, I ran into some childhood friends who told me, Shubai, he took Wancho to the movies. Those two were practically glued together at the cinema earlier. They're probably sneaking off to some secluded spot by now. The guys snickered knowingly. Spring blossoms were everywhere, yet I felt as if someone had drenched me in the icy waters of midwinter, freezing me to the bone until even the pain turned numb. From beginning to end, Ching Wancho remained Shinshubai's one and only priority. Even after their breakup in their past life, Shinshubai still put her affairs above all else. He stood me up multiple times just to deal with Ching Wancho's trivial matters. Whenever I voiced my grievances, he'd always insist that we owed her. Even when I had a threatened miscarriage early in pregnancy, he abandoned my weakened self at the hospital to help Ching Wancho's family move cabbages. When Ching Wancho overdosed on our wedding day, he blamed me for insisting on holding the ceremony that supposedly triggered her. Memories of past lives came flooding back, and long-suppressed tears began streaming down my face. The next morning, I went to the factory and quit my secure job at the textile mill. For passing by the cafeteria, I happened to see Shinshubai silently transferring braised pork from his enamel mug to Ching Wancho's plate. In our previous life, when food rations were scarce at home, Shinshubai always got priority. Only then did I understand those who are favored will always take things for granted. In the corner of the yard, my fingers trembled slightly as they clutched the tin cookie box. Crouching before the coal stove, I watched the flames reduce the picture book Shinshubai had drawn for me as a child to ashes. Inside the cookie box lay a silver butterfly hairpin, a rare treasure Shinshubai had brought back from his first business trip to Shanghai when he pinned it in my hair himself. My heart overflowed with sweetness. The box held countless little keepsakes of Shinshubai, each one a fragment of youthful memories. Carrying the tin box, I walked to the scrap collection stall at the alley's end and tossed it into a bamboo crate overflowing with rusty metal. As I turned, I saw Shinshubai cycling past with Ching Wancho on the back seat, her floral umbrella bobbing as her laughter tinkled through the air. My heart clenched in a violent spasm of pain. Severing emotional ties is easy, but reclaiming your own heart is the hardest part. Alone, I went to the station and bought a southbound train ticket for tomorrow. After tonight, Shinshubai and I will be worlds apart, with no ties left between us. But I never expected that night, Shinshubai would drunkenly knock on my door just like in our past life. Sujingi. The stench of alcohol enveloped me as Shinshubai's knuckles dug viciously into my wrist. 5. I could practically hear the creaking protest of my own bones. What kind of witchcraft did you use on my mother? You wouldn't even donate part of your liver to her, yet she still only recognizes you. He pinned me brutally against the wall, his wine-stained shirt brushing against my cheek. His eyes burned with anger. I took Wancho to visit the hospital, but my mom kept giving her the cold shoulder. Every other word out of her mouth was about you. Wancho was so upset she cried the whole time, and now she wants to break up with me. She's dumping me. You finally got what you wanted. Happy now? I was baffled. I'd already stepped back from this messy love triangle to let them be together. So why was Qingwanqiu still making breakup threats? Shin Shubai's drunken eyes roamed over my body with a hazy gaze. My clothes were disheveled from the struggle, exposing large swathes of my collarbone. His scorching breath fanned against my ear as his teeth grazed my earlobe. Shin Shubai, you're drunk. I struggled violently to escape his rough, wandering hands. Memories of that fateful night in my past life, when I conceived our child, resurfaced. Back then, we were dating. Though intimidated by his unfamiliar desires, I still secretly longed to be with him. This time, all I felt was humiliation. You said you liked me. Why are you pushing me away? My torn nightgown exposed my chest as I clawed bloody streaks into her hand, only to be met with even fiercer restraint. He spat and growled through gritted teeth. Isn't this what you wanted? Stop playing the saint. Tears streamed down my face as I sank my teeth into his shoulder, using his moment of pain to shove him away with all my strength. Shin Shubai, don't take your drunken tantrums out on me. I'm going to find Qingwanqiu. Stumbling out of the house, I ran all the way to Qingwanqiu's place. Shin Shubai's drunk. Come with me, quick. She looked puzzled, but I didn't have time to explain. I just grabbed her hand and bolted outside. The night street was eerily quiet, with only the sound of Qingwanqiu's and my frantic footsteps echoing. Suddenly, shadowy figures emerged from the alleyway with malicious intent. It instantly dawned on me. We'd run into street thugs. I knew perfectly well neither Qingwanqiu nor I stood a chance unless someone stalled these hoodlums. In my past life, Qingwanqiu took her own life on my wedding day, and Shin Shubai died saving me. Though none of it was by my choice, the debt to them remains mine to bear. I thought stepping aside in love would bring happiness to all three of us, yet now, the wheels of fate are turning full circle. Those 40 years with Shin Shubai in my past life were bought with emotional blackmail. Now it's time to return what was never truly mine. This time, I'll set everything right and sever all ties with him for good. I shoved Qingwanqiu away abruptly. Run, don't look back. A piercing scream tore through the night. I watched as Qingwanqiu staggered a few steps before gritting her teeth and sprinting in the opposite direction. I turned to face the thugs, trembling fingers clutching the hem of my shirt. What do you want? They circled me like starving wolves, their sinister laughter piercing the night. Come play with us, little girl. A freezing hand roughly tore open my collar, sending violent tremors through my body. I shut my eyes in despair, tears trickling down my temples into the dirt. Shin Shubai, in this lifetime, you owe me nothing, and I owe Qingwanqiu nothing. There's no chance for us anymore. The expected groping hands never reached me. A flurry of sharp punches and kicks came whistling through the air. The darkness erupted with a man's pained howl and the dull thud of a heavy body collapsing. A warm palm suddenly covered my bare shoulder. A scent both unfamiliar yet comforting whispered, "Don't be afraid, you're safe now." My taut nerves snapped at the soothing voice, my body going limp as I collapsed into their arms before darkness fully claimed me. One clear thought remained. This time, I hadn't succumbed to passion with Shin Shubai, nor would I let those two unintended consequences come into existence this fateful night. Morning light streamed through the window as Shin Shubai slowly opened his eyes. 6. When his fingertips brushed against the soft body beside him, he froze instinctively, taking in the familiar room decor. He felt surprised yet relieved, with an inexplicable tinge of joy. Lately, he and Qingwanqiu had been constantly at odds over family matters, making their relationship unbearably tense. Many times he thought about just following his family's advice and choosing to be with Jingyi. Su Jingyi was smarter than Qingwanqiu, gentler, and better at winning over the elders. A future with her would probably be quite happy now that the deed is done. It might actually turn out for the best. Yet when he turned to embrace the figure beside him, his body froze the instant he recognized the face on the pillow. He jerked upright, the back of his head thudding against the headboard. How could this be? He distinctly remembered getting drunk last night. The woman who'd shared his bed was supposed to be Su Jingyi. How could the person curled up sleeping so soundly right now be Qingwanqiu? Why is she here? His memories of last night were hazy as if seen through frosted glass. As he shook Qingwanqiu awake, "What are you doing here?" Qingwanqiu gazed with dreamy eyes, her face flushed with a mixture of shyness and blissful rosiness. "What do you think? It's all because of you." "Oh, this is so embarrassing." Shin Shubai had no time for romantic exchanges, his face etched with urgency. "Where's Jingyi?" A flicker of guilt crossed Qingwanqiu's face before she defensively snapped, "Why are you being so harsh? I'm your girlfriend. I just gave myself to you last night. What's this rush to chase after another woman?" Shin Shubai's expression darkened further. He flung himself off the bed, threw on his clothes, and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. In the courtyard, he ran into his childhood friend approaching head-on and called out to him, "Shubai, why are you still here? Jingyi's in trouble, she's at the hospital." Shin Shubai turned pale with shock. What happened to her? She ran into some hooligans in Yuanfeng Alley last night and got harassed. The moment he heard this, all color drained from Shin Shubai's face as he immediately bolted to leave, but Qing Wanqiu rushed after him and stopped him in his tracks. Her eyes reddened as she choked out, Shin Shubai, what do you mean by this? You think you can just walk away after having your way with me? Fragments of last night's events flashed through Shin Shubai's mind, sending cold sweat trickling down his spine. A vein pulsed at his temple as he fixed Qing Wanqiu with a piercing glare. What exactly happened to Jingyi? Yuanfeng Lane is near your place. Why would she go there at night? And why did you suddenly show up at her house? I don't know. Qing Wanqiu's gaze darted nervously, unable to meet his eyes, her earlobes flushing crimson. Shubai, this has nothing to do with me. Shin Shubai's face turned ashen as he gripped her shoulders violently. Qing Wanqiu, what exactly happened to Jingyi? Tell me now. She told me to leave first. I swear I never meant to abandon her. Qing Wanqiu stammered, her face burning scarlet under Shin Shubai's uncharacteristically ferocious glare. I was running back to get your help, but you held me so tight the moment you saw me. You wouldn't listen no matter how I tried to explain. I couldn't. I was so exhausted I just fell asleep. Qing Wanqiu's voice grew increasingly faint as she spoke. Cold sweat trickled down Shin Shubai's temples, tracing thin trails across his ashen face. He stood frozen like a soulless husk, lips turning leaden gray as his body convulsed violently. He flung Qing Wanqiu to the ground, trembling fingers pointing accusingly at her. Qing Wanqiu, if anything happens to Jingyi, I'll never forgive you. When I woke up in the hospital, an older man was sitting by my bedside. 7. He looked familiar. Then I realized, the man who'd rescued me in the alley yesterday was Lu Xiaonan, the neighbor boy I'd known since childhood. Their whole family moved down south to live a few years ago. Xiaonan, you're back, I exclaimed with delight. Just came back to handle some family matters. Turns out Aunt Lu had taken unpaid leave back then, and this time her name was on the Cotton Mills housing allocation list. Xiaonan returned specifically to claim the apartment on her behalf. I'm fine, just a bit anemic, and the shock made me faint. After exchanging pleasantries with Lu Xiaonan, he rushed off to the factory to handle paperwork, making me promise to wait for his return so he could see me home. No sooner had Lu Xiaonan left the ward than Shin Shubai arrived in a flustered hurry. His eyes reddened instantly when he saw the handprint bruises those thugs had left on my face. Jingyi, how could those bastards do this to you? Does it hurt? When his gaze fell on the hickey on my neck, his eyes turned bloodshot with rage. His fist smashed into the wall with such force that blood instantly seeped through his knuckles. How dare they touch you? I'll fucking kill them. He seemed to have completely forgotten that he was the one who left those marks on my neck. Jingyi, don't be afraid, it's all my fault for not protecting you better. Even if someone did take advantage of you, even if others looked down on you, I don't care, I'll marry you. My heart ached with bitterness. In my past life, after I got pregnant, he promised to marry me and protect me forever. He truly kept his promise until his dying breath. But this kind of promise, I don't want it anymore. Shubai, I'm fine, they didn't harm me. Shin Shubai let out a relieved sigh, gazing at me with tender eyes. Jingyi, how could you be so reckless, putting yourself in harm's way to buy Wanqiu time to escape? I can't bear to think what I'd do if anything happened to you. I turned to Shin Shubai. Shubai, she's the one you love. I did this of my own free will. Don't blame her. Shin Shubai's expression froze momentarily before he cleared his throat awkwardly. Jingyi, don't say that. You're both equally important to me. It would break my heart to see either of you get hurt. I fought back tears. Shubai, I realize now how clingy I was. I crossed boundaries. Now that you're with Qing Wanqiu, she's the one you should be responsible to, not me. Shin Shubai's expression twisted with conflict as he sighed. Jingyi, things between Wanqiu and me aren't what you think. I can't even explain it myself. This feeling between us. Alright. I cut him off, feigning disgust. Spare me the mushy love story. Nobody wants to hear that. Stop using me as your excuse. I'm still single and don't need people spreading rumors. Shin Shubai chuckled and ruffled my hair. Nonsense, silly girl. I promised I'd always have your back. I'll protect you till my dying breath. There won't be another lifetime when fate runs its course. It needs no dramatic quarrels or bitter farewells. Just gently unclasp those intertwined hands, letting each other dissolve into the crowd. This time, Shin Shubai won't have to marry me out of obligation, nor spend 40 guilt-ridden years mourning the girl who died for him, and you certainly didn't need to die saving me. The tangled threads of our past finally unraveled in that moment. I playfully punched Shin Shubai like old times, feigning anger. Who's your brother? I'm your sister. Alright, I'm fine. It's not even Sunday. You should get back to work. Shin Shubai glanced at his wristwatch and stood up, saying, I'll come see you after work and bring those wontons you love from your favorite spot. As I watched Shin Shubai walk away, the smile on my lips gradually faded, tears streamed down uncontrollably. From then on, we became me and you. The time we shared remains indelible, though we're now embarking on separate journeys. Tuck away the memories gently, no more disturbances, no more entanglements. After work, Shin Shubai skipped his usual routine of seeing Ching Wanqiu home and rushed to buy Su Jingyi's favorite wontons to deliver to the hospital. 8 But the hospital bed was already occupied by a new patient. Puzzled, he asked the nurse and learned Su Jingyi had been discharged. Shin felt baffled. They'd clearly agreed she'd wait for him that morning, so why had Jingyi left alone? But he didn't dwell on it, assuming it was just a bed shortage and she'd been discharged home early. Yet when he rushed back to the compound, Su Jingyi's front door was secured with a heavy brass padlock. After a stunned pause, a sudden realization hit him. He turned and bolted back to the hospital to ask his mother, "Mom, have you seen Jingyi? What's she doing running around everywhere instead of going home after being discharged?" "Mrs." Shin sighed and took an envelope from the drawer, handing it to him. Shin Shubai didn't take it, his face suddenly darkening. "What do you mean by this? Don't you know yet? Jingyi's gone. She even quit her secure government job. She's never coming back, Mrs." Shin's eyes welled up as she forcefully pressed the envelope into his hand. "Jingyi came to see me before she left. This is the letter she left for you." The bowl of wonton slipped from Shin Shubai's grasp, spilling broth across the floor. His hands trembled as he opened the envelope. Inside lay only a letter and a withered, yellowed foxtail grass ring, but it was just something he'd casually woven for Su Jingyi as a child. He still remembered his younger self solemnly vowing to Su Jingyi, "When we grow up, bring this to me and I'll exchange it for a gold ring, then I'll marry you." The letter contained just a few brief lines. "Dear Shubai, may we each find peace in the years to come. I'll live my life well. You take your time, let's not look back. Wishing you and Wanqiu happiness and fulfillment, Jingyi." Shin Shubai suddenly felt as if a rusted needle had been driven straight into his heart. It couldn't be pulled out, nor could it ever heal. This pain cut 100 times deeper than when Ching Wanqiu had broken up with him. Only then did he realize that the mundane days with Su Jingyi had quietly woven into a net trapping him. The moment the net was yanked away, he awoke to the weightlessness of his own emotions. The southbound train departed at dusk. 9 Pressing my forehead against the window, the glass reflected my pallid face, like a withered flower. "Jingyi." The familiar voice made me jerk my head up. A man in a military overcoat stood in the aisle, his chiseled face alight with surprise. It was Lu Zhaonan. I never expected to run into him again so dramatically in the sleeper car just hours later. Then it dawned on me. The city his family had moved to was the same as my destination. As Lu Zhaonan struggled through the crowd, I finally got a clear look at the childhood neighbor who always shielded me. Now standing tall with a determined glint in his eyes, he settled into the seat opposite me and asked, "This train's bound for Guangzhou. What are you doing here?" His gaze lingered on my swollen eyes, his brow slightly furrowed. I bit my lip, my throat tightening. Memories came flooding back like a tidal wave. After our marriage and our past life, Shin Shubai remained perpetually melancholy, leaving me to shoulder all burdens alone both at home and beyond. As the children grew up, the meager wages from the cotton mill could no longer support our family, so during the early days of reform and opening up, I rode the wave of change, quit my stable government job and plunged into private business. Lu Zhaonan was my rock during the toughest times. He leveraged his connections to bring me clients and secure orders. "Brother Zhaonan." The words barely left my lips when bitter tears broke free, splashing heavily onto the back of my hand. Only now did I dare admit, even that seemingly graceful sacrifice couldn't mask the crushing unfairness of it all. I'd given everything in my past life, yet Shin Shubai withheld even scraps of affection or basic decency, playing the saint while acting the tyrant. What gave him the right? Lu Zhaonan tactfully refrained from prying. He fished a handkerchief from his pocket and offered it to me, his voice both gentle and resolute. "The South is full of opportunities now. After my military service, I got a factory job too. The pay's way better than up north. If you're willing, come with me. I can get you a temp job at the factory to start, then we'll figure things out once you're settled." I looked up into Lu Zhaonan's earnest eyes, feeling warmth spread through my chest. After all these years, he's still the same brother who'd stand up for me when I'm in trouble. "Brother Zhaonan, I'm so glad I met you. I don't think I'll be coming back this time. I want to see the world out there," I murmured hesitantly. "You've got this." Lu Zhaonan's voice brimmed with encouragement. "You've always been bright since childhood. If you work hard in Guangzhou, you'll surely build a good life for yourself." The train pressed onward as the scenery outside the window kept shifting. Listening to Lu Zhaonan describe the world beyond, the gloom in my heart gradually lifted. Perhaps this journey wasn't just an escape, It was the dawn of something new. Twilight crept across the windowsill as Shinshubai stared at the jasmine tea cooling in his enamel mug. 10. The floating tea leaves mirrored that radiant girl who always waited for him by the factory gate after work. She'd always wear a floral sundress with twin braids, clutching a brown paper-wrapped book to her chest whenever she spotted him. Her eyes would sparkle with playful mischief as she teased, "Master Shin, could you tell me about this Pavel Korchagin?" When he first got together with Ching Wanqiu, he didn't notice any changes in his life. Su Jingyi remained that clingy little girl, her sweet voice calling his name echoing incessantly in his ears. These days Ching Wanqiu kept hinting he should take responsibility for that night, but he only found it tiresome, using his mother's upcoming surgery as an excuse to brush things off alone at night. His fingers would unconsciously trace the letter Su Jingyi left behind. Every word on it felt like a rusty blunt knife repeatedly gouging his heart. He scanned the modest room. Su Jingyi's presence lingered in every corner, the red plastic slippers by the door, the scarf hanging behind it, the poetry collections on the bookshelf, the bookmark pressed beneath the glass desktop. She'd always considered this place her home since childhood. He used to complain about her chattering and found her annoying, always shying away from his true feelings. Now he finally understood. Through 20 years of shared days and nights, she had become etched into the very fabric of his life. When Shinshubai found me, Guangzhou was already in the sweltering heart of summer. 11. The asphalt radiated heat waves under the scorching sun, and even the usually pristine Shinshubai had sweat stains blooming across the back of his shirt. He held a ring woven from roadside foxtail grass, with beads of sweat glistening even on his eyelashes. Scanning the surroundings, he instinctively lowered his gaze when spotting me, wiping his forehead before approaching. "Jingyi," he murmured hesitantly, "I'm late, do you still want me?" I remembered how Shinshubai avoided me for ages after I told him I was pregnant in my past life. He only reappeared when I'd given up all hope and decided to terminate the pregnancy to cut ties with him completely. The same haggard, tormented look he wears now. My softened heart grew harder again. "Shubai, what brings you here?" Shinshubai snapped out of his daze and carefully pulled out a stamped document from his satchel. "Jingyi, I got a recommendation letter from the factory. I want to marry you. Will you be my wife? But Ching Wanqiu is your girlfriend." I took a step back, eyeing him coolly. I couldn't fathom what he wanted. I'd already distanced myself to give them space, yet he just wouldn't let me be. "I didn't realize my feelings for you before, Jingyi. What I had with Ching Wanqiu meant nothing." He hastily grabbed my hand. "Shinshubai," I cut him off, gently pulling my hand free. "You don't actually love me, you just can't handle me walking away suddenly. I know better than anyone, the person you love isn't me. Just go, don't waste your time on me, or you'll regret it later." Shinshubai shook his head, eyes bloodshot as he pleaded, "No, I love you, only you. These days without you, I couldn't eat or sleep, but when Ching Wanqiu broke up with me, all I felt was relief, like I'd been set free. Losing you breaks my heart, Jingyi. I know what real love is." I smiled bitterly. I used to think Shinshubai was just indecisive, but now I see the truth. He loves no one but himself. He's forever restless for what he can't have. Ching Wanqiu, the woman who died for him in her past life and now in this life, it's me who walks away. In the distance, Lu Zhaonan pedaled his old bicycle to pick me up from work for a movie date. Just as I was about to bid farewell to Shinshubai, he suddenly dropped to one knee and clutched my legs, his tears soaking through my skirt in an instant. "Jingyi, come back with me, let's start over." My heart ached unbearably. The man before me, the one I'd loved for decades across 2 lifetimes, now knelt weeping at my feet, begging for another chance. How could my heart remain untouched? Yet I suddenly remembered how he desperately tore off his wedding ring and flung it out the window in our past life's final moments. Why repeat the same mistakes? "Shubai," I said impassively with a sigh, "let's both move forward." Lu Zhaonan recognized Shinshubai and suddenly rushed over, slapping him hard on the shoulder. "Shubai, what brings you here?" No need for formalities when dropping by. Shinshubai, ever concerned about appearances, hastily wiped his face and stood up. "Brother Zhaonan, long time no see." He forced a polite smile. "I'm here on business and thought I'd drop by to see Jingyi." Lu Zhaonan seemed to have noticed something and asked casually, "Jingyi and I are going to catch a movie, what about you?" Shinshubai waved his hand. "No, you two go ahead." Then he turned to me, "Jingyi, I'll come see you tomorrow." Knowing refusal would be futile, I climbed onto Lu Zhaonan's bicycle and rode away with him. Even as we pedaled far into the distance, I could still feel Shinshubai standing there motionless, his gaze full of melancholy. Shinshubai took extended leave from the factory and lingered in Guangzhou. 12. He'd wait for me after work nearly every day, bringing my favorite street snacks. Sometimes it's a bowl of wontons, other times rice noodle rolls, or a steamer of crystal-clear shrimp dumplings, knowing words would be futile. I stopped engaging with him on that final evening. Shinshubai stood impeccably dressed, yet his face bore an unprecedented pallor and exhaustion. "Jingy, it's time for me to go. Take care of yourself. From now on." His voice was hoarse, his entire being devoid of vitality. I thought he'd finally come to terms with it. Given up, but then he said, "Got a letter from home, saying, Ching Wancho is pregnant, twins, they're mine, we're getting married." He lowered his head, too ashamed to meet my eyes. I froze for a moment, then burst into silent laughter. "How wonderful. I've finally broken free from this cycle of fate in this life. I didn't donate my liver to save Aunt Shen, and Shinshubai never developed resentment while caring for me and Ching Wancho out of gratitude. I'm no longer the one who got pregnant after a night of passion, so he doesn't have to marry me out of obligation." Shinshubai can finally grow old with the unattainable love he yearned for in his past life. I smiled sincerely at Shinshubai. "Shubai, I wish you both a joyful marriage and everlasting happiness." Shinshubai's Adam's apple bobbed with suppressed tremors. Fine bloodshot veins appeared at the corners of his eyes as unshed tears stubbornly clung to their brim. Finally, he roughly wiped his face with his hand and turned to leave. Lu Zhaonan emerged from beneath a nearby tree, rubbing his nose. I thought he was going to comfort me, but instead he sighed and said, "Even Shubai's getting married, yet here I am, the old bachelor." Sigh. "I wonder if anyone would be kind enough to take me in." As he spoke, his eyes kept darting pointedly in my direction. I couldn't help but laugh, and all traces of my earlier melancholy vanished instantly. "Fine then, I'll reluctantly do the heavens' work and take you out. You got it." 5 years later, the factory Lu Zhaonan and I started was thriving. 13. During my routine inspection, I unexpectedly ran into Ching Wancho on the workshop floor. In just 5 years, she aged 2 decades, her face gaunt, etched with the marks of time. I couldn't understand why she'd left Beijing for factory work in Guangzhou, especially after having twins, so I had the workshop supervisor tactfully probe for answers. Turns out she divorced Shinshubai shortly after childbirth, now struggling alone to raise both children in grinding poverty. Without a word, I turned and found an excuse to give her a raise. The sigh dissolved into the wind. Their story was but a speck of dust in countless cycles of rebirth, yet the tale of Lu Zhaonan and me flows eternally through the river of time. After Jingy left, I wandered through my days and a day's extra. The moment my mother's surgery was over, I immediately arranged for unpaid leave from the factory. Ching Wancho couldn't understand and physically blocked my way. "Shinshubai, I'm your woman, why didn't you discuss this with me first?" I fell silent, then resolutely pulled her hand away. "Wancho, I've wronged you. I'll do anything to make it right, whatever you ask of me, but now, I must go find Jingy." Ching Wancho's eyes burned with hatred as she screamed hysterically, "Shinshubai, you've ruined my virtue. How could you ever repay me for that? Do you really think Su Jingy would forgive you? In your dreams, she loves me," I said firmly, meeting her gaze. "If I go to her, she'll forgive me." With that, I left the sobbing Ching Wancho behind and boarded the southbound train. Jingy remained gentle toward me, but this time, her eyes held no affection, only indifference and disdain. I realize I'm probably going to lose this girl who once had eyes only for me. In our past life, when Shinshubai's mother needed a liver transplant due to cirrhosis, we all went for compatibility tests. Only I and his girlfriend Ching Wancho were matches. I knew Jingy was utterly miserable and completely fed up, yet she still couldn't bring herself to speak harshly to me. The letter from Beijing came. Ching Wancho was pregnant. I had to return and face my responsibilities as a man. On our wedding night, Ching Wancho nestled happily in my arms, yet I dreamed of Su Jingy that night. In my dream, it was our wedding anniversary. She surprised me with some futuristic technology one couldn't even name. The starry sky formed giant glowing words. "Happy Ruby anniversary, Jingy, I love you." I woke up calling her name in bliss, only to meet Ching Wancho's tear-filled eyes. After that, Wancho Ching always held resentment in her heart. Our marriage grew increasingly joyless. What was once love had turned into mutual bitterness. After the wedding, we finalized our divorce shortly after the child was born. I went to Guangzhou to see Jingy, watching from a distance as Jianan gently supported her heavily pregnant frame. Her eyes held a radiant glow I'd never seen before. I left quietly alone, never to see her again. The end. Next story. When the wealthy family came to adopt, my sister decisively left with them, leaving only me to rely on my grandmother. She thought she would enjoy wealth and splendor from then on, but the wealthy family's son turned out to be a madman who abused her daily. The parents were biased, only scolding and beating her. In the end, she went insane, stabbed the entire family, and was arrested by the police. Meanwhile, I became the youngest academician at the Agricultural Academy, developed high-end wheat varieties, was nominated for a special award, and had a boundless future. My sister fled and stormed into the awards ceremony, killing me with hatred in her heart. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day the wealthy family adopted me. My sister rushed into our grandmother's arms first, her eyes filled with venom. "Little sister, this time, it's your turn to go to hell." But she didn't know, no matter which path she chose, without using her brain, it would only lead to death. And my dream has always been just one: develop agriculture, change the world. One. Have you made up your minds? Who wants to come with me? Inside the shabby little house stood a couple dressed in splendid attire. The woman gazed at us tenderly and asked softly. They were the prestigious Fu family from Ningqing, here to choose one child between my sister and me for adoption. Su Yinglong froze momentarily, her eyes flashing with wild joy before she shoved me aside and threw herself into Grandma's arms, pouting, "I want to stay with Grandma." The woman turned her gaze to me, her eyes crinkling warmly as she said gently, "Then it's you who'll be coming with us, is that right?" Su Yinglong chimed in from the side, "Yes, yes, let the little sister go home with you." Grandma was rarely treated with such affection by Su Yinglong. Somewhat taken aback, she awkwardly reached out to pat the girl's head. Before this, Su Yinglong had despised Grandma for being poor, always ordering her around and calling her an old hag even when she craved snacks. In the middle of a stormy night, she would wake up her elderly grandmother and order her to go buy things. Grandma found it somewhat strange. She knew that Su Yinglong despised the poor and admired the rich, always dissatisfied with their family's poverty. Why was it that when the wealthy man came to their home to adopt a child contrary to expectations, Su Yinglong chose not to follow the wealthy family's departure, but to stay at home? Grandmother couldn't understand why Su Yinglong made the unprecedented choice to remain in this impoverished household, but I knew the reason all too well. Because both Su Yinglong and I had been reborn. I knelt on the ground and kowtowed deeply to Grandma 3 times. "Grandma, thank you for taking care of me all these years. If I ever get the chance, I will repay you." After kowtowing, I stood up. I walked calmly toward the Fu couple. "I'll go with you, too." In her past life, her sister took the lead, rushing into the arms of the Fu couple and decisively choosing to leave with them. She thought that by entering the wealthy Fu family, she would henceforth enjoy a happy, princess-like life. Little did she know, the Fu family had ulterior motives for adopting a daughter. The Fu family had a son named Fu Jing, who was dignified and handsome in appearance. What a pity, he's a manic-depressive lunatic. When her sister Su Yinglong entered the Fu family, what awaited her wasn't the meticulous care of wealthy parents or her brother's domineering pampering, but rather the abuse of a madman. Seeing Fu Jing's condition had stabilized somewhat, the Fu parents decided to send him to school. Worried he might struggle alone, they resolved to adopt a child. On her first day entering the Fu household, Su Yinglong was filled with joy, eager to build a good relationship with Fu Jing. However, Fu Jing detested the sudden appearance of a stranger in his home. Far from welcoming her with a smile, he directly slapped Su Yinglong across the face. The Fu parents were unfazed by this behavior and paid no attention to the swelling on Su Yinglong's face. They merely issued a cold command for her to keep an eye on her older brother at school. Her classmates similarly looked down on Su Yinglong for being an adopted daughter. The crown prince of the school, Zhou Chongji, even took the lead in bullying Su Yinglong, making her school life utterly miserable. After returning home, whenever Fu Jing's parents discovered he had an episode at school resulting in self-injury, they would whip Su Yinglong with a cane and make her kneel all night as punishment. Su Yinglong had a hard life. In contrast to her, my life was very peaceful. After Su Yinglong left, Grandma devoted all her unconditional love to me. I studied diligently at school every day, and after school, I helped my grandmother sell baked sweet potatoes. Although life is tough, I feel truly happy. Later, an academician from the Academy of Agricultural Sciences came to inspect our school and immediately took a liking to me. Living up to expectations, I successfully entered agricultural school, joined the Academy of Agricultural Sciences, conducted experiments under the academician's guidance, and developed high-end wheat varieties. This even led to my nomination as the youngest candidate for the top Science and Technology Award. A bright future with boundless prospects. Driven to madness by torment, Su Yinglong stabbed her entire family and was arrested by the police. It's just a pity I couldn't make it onto the podium on the day of the award ceremony. Su Yinglong escaped from prison. Seeing me surrounded by the crowd at the center, she turned green with envy and stabbed me over a dozen times in a frenzied attack. So in this second chance at life, she chose without hesitation to stay by Grandma's side, determined to push me into the abyss of the Fu family. As I stepped out the door, I glanced back one last time. Grandma gazed at me with reluctant longing, her face full of unwillingness to part. Meanwhile, My sister Su Yinglong leaned against Grandma's embrace, her eyes fixed on me with nothing but pure venom. She sneered coldly, "Little sister, this time, it's your turn to go to hell." She was certain that once I entered the Fu family, I would suffer the same torment as her in her past life. But doesn't Su Yinglong, who has already died once, understand by now no matter which path she chooses? A brainless person like her has only one fate, death. 3. Su Yinglong. Guessed right. From the very first day I entered the Fu household, I knew Fu Jing was a complete madman through and through. My parents brought me home and led me to a handsome young man with deep, dark eyes. They looked at Fu Jing and said softly, "Xiao Jing, from now on, she will be your little sister. At school, she'll take care of you." With that, Mrs. Fu pushed me forward, presenting me to Fu Jing like some kind of toy. "From now on, your only task is to take good care of your brother. Don't let him suffer even the slightest harm, understand?" I looked at the boy before me. Understood. After the Fu family parents left, Fu Jing lazily walked up to me, looking down at me with disdain. After a long pause, he sneered, "What kind of trash dares to call herself my sister?" The next moment, he reached out and forcefully slammed my head onto the table. It made a loud thud. His gaze was filled with violence, looking at me with contempt as if I were an insignificant ant. Idiot. At this moment, Fu's mother, who had forgotten something, happened to turn back. She saw me in a sorry state, with Fu Jing gripping my neck and pinning me on the table. She didn't show any surprise. After retrieving her item, she passed by Fu Jing, glanced at me, and said indifferently, "Fu Qiushi, keep a close watch. Don't let your brother get hurt." Choked by the neck, I could only roll my eyes to look at Fu Jing and softly replied, "Understood. I'll take good care of him." Watching Fu Jing's parents appear concerned yet actually indifferent towards him, I think Fu Jing is pitiful, truly pitiful. Fu's parents were busy with business trips and left quickly. After confirming they had truly left, I reached out, grabbed Fu Jing's hair, and yanked it down hard. My voice was calm. "Let go of me, you brainless lunatic." Fu Jing winced in pain from my movement. He involuntarily loosened his grip, glaring at me angrily. "How dare you insult me? I'll tell mom and dad and have you kicked out." I sidestepped Fu Jing, curving my eyes slightly as I smiled gently. "Mom saw everything just now. You were pinching me. And I didn't even dare to resist, so how could I possibly dare to insult you, brother?" As we went upstairs, I warned Fu Jing, "You'd better behave yourself and not cause any trouble before our parents get back." After saying that, I ignored Fu Jing's incredulous expression and walked away directly. Let Fu Jing rage outside, slamming the door so hard it shook the heavens. I remained completely unmoved, for Su Yinglong wasn't content with just pushing me into the abyss. She started a live stream, putting on a fragile act, tearfully holding up her phone to film. With her pure appearance and disheveled black hair, Su Yinglong looked even more innocent. Pitifully, she said, "My sister and I were raised by our grandmother since childhood, and I have deep feelings for her. Choosing between a life of luxury in a wealthy family and the long-term companionship of family bonds, because grandma's health isn't good, I ultimately decided to stay by her side, hoping to spend more time with her." After saying this, Su Yinglong paused and let out a bitter laugh, but my younger sister chose to enter the wealthy family without even looking back, showing no concern whatsoever for how grandma would fare afterwards. I truly believe she's a cold and heartless person. Watching the live stream gain more and more viewers after hearing Su Yinglong's words, many people followed the public opinion and mercilessly criticized me as an ungrateful wretch. Su Yinglong quickly added, "I'm not saying my sister's approach was wrong. Of course I understand that choosing wealth when given the option is human nature. I can understand her actions, of course." Su Yinglong tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and said softly, "I'll always stay by grandma's side." Su Yinglong stared at her phone screen, revealing a smile as pure as the only little white flower growing in a desert. She clenched her fists as if cheering herself on. "I'll live well together with grandma." Seeing Su Yinglong's innocent and harmless appearance, many netizens felt heartache for her. Her live stream was also recorded and spread as a video. For a time, everyone praised her as a little white flower blooming from the mud, and I was the greedy and opportunistic ingrate. 5. Unsurprisingly, almost all the students at school had seen this widely circulated video. Young Master Zhou Chongji was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He had never seen such a stubborn girl who, when faced with a choice between money and family, unhesitatingly chose family. Not only that, but she was also strong-willed and harmless. In contrast, my snobbish sister, who despises the poor and fawns over the rich, appears even more malicious and cunning. Zhou Chongji had always looked down upon worldly people like me, so he brought his gang and arrogantly cornered me at the restroom entrance. Zhou Chongji squatted halfway before me, smoking Looking down at me with disdain, he blew smoke into my face. Look at you, how dare a filthy insect like you deserve to study in this school. Zhou Chongji flicked the ash off his cigarette, then pressed the still burning tip directly onto my arm. I was held down, unable to move. I could only watch as Zhou Chongji's cigarette burned into my skin with a sizzling sound, quickly raising a red, swollen blister. Seeing this, the surrounding boys erupted in mocking jeers. Su Yinglong was called over and happened to witness this scene. Immediately, she widened her eyes, covered her mouth in shock, and exclaimed, "How could you do this?" Zhou Chongji looked up, lazily stood up, walked to Su Yinglong's side, and chuckled, "Hey, little one, young master here is helping you get revenge. Don't you like it?" Su Yinglong swiftly glanced at me, concealing the triumph in her eyes. Then, she stomped her foot and glared at Zhou Chongji angrily. "I don't like this, it's too much." Zhou Chongji watched Su Yinglong scrunch her nose, let out a mocking laugh, grabbed her arm, and pulled her shoulder to walk out. "Don't like it? Next time I'll try a different approach." Su Yinglong's voice was sweet and coquettish. "Zhou Chongji, how could you treat a classmate like this? It's not allowed." Rounding the corner, Su Yinglong glanced back stealthily, casting me a contemptuous look. Naturally, she was smug. In her past life, Zhou Chongji was the one who bullied her the most at school. This lifetime, with their roles reversed, Zhou Chongji ended up falling for her and helped her bully me instead. "But, sister, to live a second life relying on men, is this the only trick you've got?" 6. During Fu Jing's first few days at school, he behaved calmly, kept to himself, and didn't cause any trouble. But after handing in the exam papers, when I returned to the classroom, I found the place in complete chaos. Fu Jing's desk had been overturned, with books scattered all over the floor. "The person who paid respects is no longer here." The classmates' eyes still held fear. They said Fu Jing was sitting perfectly fine, then suddenly went mad in an instant, smashing everything within reach. I found Fu Jing in an empty classroom, with teachers hesitantly standing at the doorway, none daring to enter. He sat calmly on the only stool in the center of the classroom, with unfathomable violence hidden beneath his eyes. Su Yinglong witnessed this scene, and a flash of venomous hatred crossed her face. The scenes of being tortured by Fu Jing's madness in her past life were still vivid in her mind. She screamed in terror, "Fu Jing is a lunatic, he's sick." After taking care of Fu Jing for so long, how could she not know that people experiencing bipolar episodes shouldn't be provoked? I stepped forward and slapped Su Yinglong hard across the face, ordering her, "Shut up, don't speak." I slammed her against the wall. Su Yinglong's eyes widened as she was about to scream, but the next second, out of the corner of her eye, she saw Zhou Chongji approaching down the corridor with his entourage. Su Yinglong's eyes flickered as tears began to fall, sobbing as she said, "How could you bully me like this?" Zhou Chongji witnessed the scene, his jaw tightening in anger as he stormed over. "Hey, Fu Qiushi, are you looking to die?" But I completely ignored Zhou Chongji. Turning around, I stepped into the classroom. No one dared to enter and forcefully slammed the door behind me. Facing Fu Jing's suddenly raised terrifying gaze with calm eyes, I extended the medicine bottle in my hand. "Take the medicine." Fu Jing's voice was icy as he said bluntly, "Get out." Seeing me approach step by step, Fu Jing's fingers curled slightly. The next moment, he stood up, grabbed my neck, and slammed me to the ground. Fu Jing's eyes were bloodshot as he growled from his throat. I said, "Get out." Given the circumstances, I wasn't the least bit surprised, but this is a school, not the Fu household. Not a place where Fu Jing can act recklessly as he pleases. Having worked in the fields with my grandmother for years, if nothing else, my strength is truly formidable. Without a word, I pried open Fu Jing's grip, seized him by the collar, and flipped him straight onto the ground. Pinning Fu Jing down, I enunciated each word slowly. I said, "Take your medicine." Fu Jing was having a bipolar episode at that moment and couldn't listen to a word I said. He struggled to get up. "How dare you treat me like this? I'll tell Mom and Dad to kick you out." My voice was icy. "Suit yourself." If it weren't for the fact that Grandma owed the Fu family a debt of gratitude that needed repaying, I would never have obediently left with the Fu family. Fu Jing couldn't outmatch me. With a fierce glare, he opened his mouth and bit down hard on my arm. He showed no mercy, and in an instant, blood gushed from my wound. But I wasn't about to indulge him. I threw a powerful punch to his face, covered in blood, and grappled with him, having just vented his anger. Fu Jing had already exhausted his strength by now. In the end, I pinned him down with his hands twisted behind his back, forcing him to swallow the medicine. Fu Jing glared at me with hatred. "Fu Qiushi, you're insane." I slapped him mercilessly. "You're the insane one, moron." 7. Because this time Fu Jing had an episode at school, almost everyone knew Fu Jing had bipolar disorder. Su Yinglong even spread rumors at school, saying Fu Jing was a madman, violent and cruel, and everyone should stay away from him. Facing Zhou Chongji's inquiry, tears immediately welled up in Su Yinglong's eyes as she said tearfully, Fu Jing is a terrifying person. I've seen him bully others before. I just wanted to keep my classmates away from him for their own safety. Upon hearing this, the subtle discomfort in Zhou Chongji's heart instantly dissipated, and he found Su Yinglong even more kind-hearted. He pulled Su Yinglong into an embrace and declared boldly with a wave of his hand, "Don't be afraid, stay with me. I won't let anyone bully you." Hearing this, Su Yinglong showed a shy expression. She blushed, lightly hitting Zhou Chongji's arm, and coquettishly said, "What are you talking about?" It was precisely because of these words Su Yinglong had been spreading. Fu Jing was already unsociable, and now, no one dared to get close to him. Only I, as usual at school, kept an eye on Fu Jing, making sure he took his medicine on time. Fu Jing was very impatient with me, scolding me more than once to get lost. I watched Fu Jing swallow his medicine, took the bottle, and turned away. Didn't want to be near you anyway. Because last time when Fu Jing had an episode, I impatiently slapped Su Yinglong. Zhou Chongji saw it and thought I was bullying Su Yinglong, which made him despise me even more. At school, I often found my desks and chairs scribbled with words like bitch and slut. Using markers. When going to the cafeteria, people would intentionally bump into me, causing my food to spill all over me. Even when I went out briefly, I would return to find snakes, mice, or cockroaches in my backpack, sometimes dead, sometimes alive. Saw me freeze. Zhou Chongji leaned against the windowsill, laughing uproariously with his lackeys. I remained expressionless, walked over, and directly stuffed the thing back into his uniform collar exactly as it was. Zhou Chongji screamed in fright, jumping and shaking the mouse out of his clothes, cursing at me. "Are you insane?" Without saying a word, I turned and went back to my seat. Zhou Chongji's gaze was sinister as he glared at me. "I'm going to kill you." Zhou Chongji and his group had numbers on their side. I always avoided them. If I could dodge them, I'd have a peaceful day. Can't escape. If they catch me, I'll have to endure some humiliation. But I never begged Zhou Chongji for mercy, even when he ground his foot on my hand, looking down at me arrogantly. "Tisk, Fu Qiushi, I see your mouth is quite stubborn." I was in so much pain that cold sweat poured down, but I refused to make a sound. Finally, Zhou Chongji found it boring and turned to leave. With his entourage slowly getting up from the ground, I leaned against the wall, staring at Zhou Chongji's retreating figure, and hoarsely said, "Zhou Chongji, you'd better kill me if you get the chance, otherwise, I'll drag you down to hell with me." Hearing this, Zhou Chongji turned back with disdain. "Dumbass, think you're tough just for spouting some tough talk." Immediately after, there was a burst of uproarious laughter from a group of boys. Fu Jing often witnessed Zhou Chongji bullying me, but he would just give me an indifferent glance before turning away with complete apathy. Seeing this, Su Yinglong patted my face with a mocking smile and sneered, "Fu Qiushi, you're so eager to be Fu Jing's lapdog, but he's never cared about you at all." I don't have the strength to deal with Su Yinglong right now. I can only lean against the wall to catch my breath. After catching my breath, I lifted my foot and kicked Su Yinglong hard. She screamed in fear, took a few steps back, and glared at me angrily. "Bitch, why aren't you dead yet?" Then, as if struck by some amusing thought, she suddenly burst into giggles. She gloated triumphantly, "It's not time yet, my dear sister. Just wait to be plunged into a long, sunless nightmare." 9. Fu Jing and Zhou Chongji got into a fight. By the time I arrived, they were already grappling fiercely in the classroom, both bearing injuries. One was from the prominent Fu family of Ningqing, the other was the young master of the Zhou family. These two started fighting, and no one dared to intervene, fearing they might get hurt in the crossfire. The homeroom teacher stood at the door, anxiously pacing in circles. I glanced at Su Yinglong, who was hiding by the door, covering her mouth in excitement as she watched the drama unfold. It's obvious that these two people, who normally have no interaction, wouldn't fight for no reason. She must have instigated it. Su Yinglong saw me appear and curled her eyes smugly, revealing a row of white teeth. The Fu family parents are back from their business trip. When they find out Fu Jing got into a fight, guess what they'll do? "Little sister, you're done for." The sight of Su Yinglong irritated me. I raised my hand and slapped her hard. "Done for? Without Zhou Chongji here to protect you, don't you realize you're about to get beaten?" After finishing, I completely ignored Su Yinglong's screams behind me. I stepped into the classroom without hesitation. Fu Jing's bipolar disorder flared up again at this moment, his eyes bloodshot as he tightly gripped Zhou Chongji's neck. Zhou Chongji wasn't one to back down either, pinning Fu Jing to the ground and punching him repeatedly in the face. I stood aside, grabbed a long stick, and mercilessly smashed it onto Zhou Chongji's head. With a loud clang sound. Struck by this unexpected blow, Zhou Chongji's eyes rolled back as he lost consciousness. I flung the stick away, feeling immensely satisfied. The teacher outside screamed in terror. At the sight, Fu Qiushi, this child is way too bold. Quick, quick, get Zhou Chongji to the infirmary. Seeing Zhou Chongji pass out, Fu Jing still stubbornly refused to let go. His hands clenched around Zhou Chongji's neck. I was afraid he might actually strangle Zhou Chongji to death. I had no choice but to hold Fu Jing down, prying his fingers open one by one while soothing him. Calm down, Fu Jing. Fu Jing's eyes darted around before glaring at me viciously. Seemingly wanting to throw a punch my way too, I preempted him, twisting Fu Jing's arms behind his back and restraining him. Calm down. Unwilling to yield, Fu Jing struggled a few times before suddenly biting down on my arm. Damn it, biting again. Is he part dog or something? I spoke rapidly. Right now I'm your only acquaintance at school. I have your medication. I can take good care of you. So please calm down, okay? Be good, be good. I won't let anyone bully you again. Listening to my comforting words, perhaps it was the taste of blood in Fu Jing's mouth that made his crimson eyes glare at me fiercely before he slowly loosened his bite. 10. The incident blew up into a huge deal. The teacher summoned both sets of parents to the school. The Zhou parents looked at Zhou Chongji's injuries and smiled thinly at the Fu family. Your adopted daughter here has quite the vicious streak. Hearing this, Father Fu shot me a sidelong glance and mercilessly slapped me hard across the face. Instantly, my cheek swelled up, and I could almost taste the faint metallic tang of blood from the broken skin inside my mouth. Father Fu said with a smile, yes, this child is beyond discipline. I hit too hard. My apologies. In front of the Zhou family, Father Fu berated me sternly and harshly. Immediately, he told me to get out, saying he would have a good talk with the Zhou family. Just as I was leaving, Father Fu patted my shoulder and said softly, well done. Seeing me walk out with a swollen, red face, Su Yinglong's eyes curved with delight as she giggled triumphantly, covering her lips mockingly. Sister, you're done for. You'll get the whip when you go back, and kneeling as punishment. None of it will be spared, and when that madman has an episode, you might end up suffering terribly at his hands. Just seeing her irritates me. Grabbing Su Yinglong by the throat, he slammed her against the wall and glared coldly, watch your mouth. He's ill, not insane. Su Yinglong was being choked by me, struggling to breathe as teardrops welled up uncontrollably in the corners of her eyes. Her face flushed crimson as she kept slapping my hand. Truly Fu Jing's well-trained dog, so fiercely protective of its master. At that moment, Zhou Chongji walked out of the office with a darkened expression. Seeing me choking Su Yinglong, he stepped forward and forcefully pulled us apart, his gaze impatient. Bullying your sister again, how vicious. The deep-seated grudge from that time I hit you with a stick. At this moment, Zhou Chongji's gaze upon me was icy cold. He stared at me coldly. You've really crossed the line this time, Fu Qiushi. With curved eyes, I looked at the two people before me and said cheerfully, want to kill me? What a pity. Too late. Fu Jing walked out calmly from behind the door. Lifting his eyelids slightly, he grabbed me by the collar and pulled me outside. Fu Qiushi, let's go. Witnessing this scene, Su Yinglong widened her eyes in shock, her expression almost completely disbelieving. Impossible. When did you become so close with him? I ignored it. I shook off Fu Jing's hand and frowned at him. Are you sick? Fu Jing paused mid-step, his expression awkward as he looked at me. He moved his lips but said nothing. Lift your leg and walk straight forward. I warily sized up Fu Jing, sensing something was off about him. Unusual events always signal hidden trouble. After a long pause, Fu Jing finally took a deep breath. I heard it. When that white lotus called me crazy, you scolded her. Why are you helping me? Fu Jing seemed somewhat confused. I haven't been kind to you. I let out an "oh" and said, I just don't like her and wanted an excuse to teach her a lesson. Besides, I frowned, staring at Fu Jing with genuine confusion. I've always called you crazy. 11. Fu Jing seemed to have unilaterally started a cold war with me. This is my deduction, because when I previously supervised Fu Jing taking his medicine, he still mocked me. Idiot. Sometimes he acts against me, deliberately knocking over the medicine. But now, Fu Jing doesn't even glance at me, coldly taking the medicine and swallowing it in one gulp. Though I don't know what madness has taken hold of him again, but I find this version of Fu Jing quite easy to handle. After he took his medicine, I simply returned to my seat to continue working on the problems. Thanks to Su Yinglong's choices in this lifetime, although Fu Jing is a madman, the Fu family never shortchanges me financially. In my previous life, I attended school during the day and helped my grandmother sell baked sweet potatoes at night. Without money, I couldn't bear to buy supplementary teaching materials. The workbooks were bought at low prices from senior students, filled with scribbles and notes, repeatedly practiced several times before being reluctantly set aside. Now, There's a housekeeper taking care of things at home, and a chauffeur handles the school commute every month. Mother Fu transfers a large sum of money into my account. I don't need to worry about running out of money at all. In contrast, Su Yinglong's life was much more financially strained. Grandma was getting old, braving the bitter cold wind every day to sell roasted sweet potatoes, yet barely earning any money. She relied on poverty subsidies to get by each month, but having lived a life of privilege in her past existence, suddenly returning to a life of scarcity left her in utter disarray. Su Yinglong already had poor academic performance, making her future prospects bleak. Now, she can only cling to Zhou Chongji's affection for her to regain a shred of faith in the future. Occasionally returning home, Su Yinglong would often angrily scold her grandmother, "You old thing, why can't you come up with money? Go out and earn some quickly." Considering grandma's advanced age, I worried that overexertion might harm her health. I deliberately saved up my monthly allowance and, taking advantage of Su Yinglong's absence, slipped the money to grandma. I told her, "Buy whatever the household needs, but don't spoil Su Yinglong. And don't let her keep ordering you around. Be good, Grandma." Grandma held my hand, her cloudy eyes looking at me with guilt. "Qiushi, it's Grandma's fault for being useless. When you're old, you can't earn money, and instead have to send you away. Qiushi, don't let anyone bully you out there." My eyes grew warm as I squeezed Grandma's hand back, smiling. "Grandma, I'm living very well now. Mom and Dad treat me well, and so does my brother. No one bullies me." Only then did Grandma seem to set her mind at ease, patting my hand slowly. That's good, that's good." When leaving, Grandma held on to me and insisted on stuffing a bag of sweet potatoes into my hands. "These are grown by Grandma herself, healthy. Take them back for your parents to eat." I couldn't refuse, so I had to take it in my hands. "Grandma, I'll come see you next time. Take good care of yourself." Grandma stood at the door, watching me leave as she waved cheerfully and said, "I'll be waiting for you." When I got home, I saw Fu Jing sitting on the couch downstairs, flipping through a book impatiently. Seeing me return, his tone carried some displeasure. "Where did you go? Why didn't you wait for me after school?" Noticing me carrying a dirty plastic bag with soil stains into the house, Fu Jing's expression grew even more disdainful. "What's this? It looks filthy." I couldn't be bothered with Fu Jing and walked into the kitchen to wash and dry the sweet potatoes. Fu Jing followed me in, crossing his arms and standing arrogantly to the side. "Why did you buy these?" "I went to see Grandma today. These are the ones she grew." Fu Jing had heard about me and snorted through his nose. Seeing me start cooking, he stiffened his neck and reluctantly said, "Hey, Fu Qiushi, I want a taste too." I didn't add any seasoning, just boiled the sweet potatoes in plain water. Fu Jing frowned, picked at the skin with a fork, and tentatively took a bite. "Just barely acceptable. The taste is alright. Your grandma grew them well." Watching Fu Jing's awkward demeanor for the first time ever, I didn't find him quite so detestable. As we went upstairs, I casually patted his head like petting a dog. "Finish it, don't waste." Fu Jing widened his eyes and gasped sharply, "Fu Qiushi, how dare you?" 12 Since the last time his parents were called to school, Zhou Chongji reluctantly behaved himself for a while, but every time I passed by, I couldn't help but notice his gaze at me was icy cold, as if plotting something. Similarly, Su Yinglong also quieted down, yet her gaze remained as venomous as ever. "Why don't you get confined? Why didn't you get beaten? Fu Qiushi, how exactly did you manage it?" I looked at her and smiled faintly. "Want to know?" The next moment, gripping the back of her neck, I stood on the stairs, leaned down, and whispered by her ear, "Then get on your knees and beg me." "Sister, the answer is actually quite simple. Understand clearly what each character desires." The Fu family parents were too busy with work, so they wanted someone to take care of their child at school and ensure a stable life. Fu Jing had been neglected since childhood, so he hoped to have companionship and receive care. I just hope my school life passes quietly. Use your brain to find the balance between these three. Take the initiative to put in some effort. The problem will be easily solved. Unfortunately, in her previous life, Su Yinglong was too selfish, only thinking of herself and unwilling to compromise in the slightest. This is the difference between her and me. Su Yinglong's body trembled with anger as she glared at me hatefully. A moment later, she took a deep breath, forcefully suppressing the anger in her heart. She sneered, "Just wait and see, Fu Qiushi, without Grandma by your side, do you really think Academician Fan would choose you as his disciple in this lifetime? Keep dreaming. In this lifetime, I will definitely live better than you." 13 The weather turned bitterly cold right after Christmas. It was rare for Ningqing to have snowfall after Su Yinglong's harsh words to me last time. She's now doubling her efforts to please Zhou Chongji. After all, Winning Zhou Chongji's favor and becoming the fiancé of the Zhou family's crown prince would bring immense prestige. This was an honor she wouldn't have dared to dream of in her past life. As the new year approached, the school was decorated with lanterns and red banners, giving the campus a fresh new look. I knew this was the school administration's effort to prepare the environment for the arrival of the academician from the Agricultural Academy who would be giving a speech. As for me, I continued my routine life, shuttling between school and home. Occasionally when Su Yinglong wasn't home, I'd go visit grandma. This peaceful life suits me just fine, but ever since Fu Jing didn't find me waiting after school last time, he's been keeping a very close eye on me. When I went to visit grandma, this young master would sit in the car, condescendingly waiting for me to come out under the pretext of being afraid I'd cause trouble. Me, who's the real troublemaker here. Sometimes when Fu Jing grew impatient waiting, he'd follow me inside with a look of disdain. A pampered young master like Fu Jing did seem out of place in this cramped rental unit in the urban village. Granny nervously wiped her hands, unsure how to properly host. Fu Jing meticulously cleaned off a small stool before sitting down, unusually calm for once. Pretentiously holding a disposable cup with 2 fingers, he sneered, "Sitting here any longer will give me rheumatism." I glared at Fu Jing. "Young master, sit if you want, or get lost if you don't." Fu Jing shot me a vicious glare, but his butt seemed glued to the stool, refusing to budge. It wasn't until I finished helping grandma with her chores that Fu Jing reluctantly stood up. Grandma looked at Fu Jing kindly and said cheerfully, "Xiao Jing, come visit again with Qiushi next time." Fu Jing cleared his throat and reluctantly forced a smile at his grandmother. "See you next time." As I stepped outside, I unexpectedly encountered someone I hadn't anticipated. 14. Zhou Chongji stood at the alley entrance with a dark expression, flanked by a group of underlings carrying clubs. Zhou Chongji stared at us and let out a sinister chuckle. "Finally caught you." He sauntered forward slowly, a hint of disdain curling at the corners of his lips. "You've really picked a great spot. No cameras, no people." He tapped the long rod in his hand leisurely and said, "Even if I kill you all today, no one would ever know." Zhou Chongji is following us. With a sweep of my gaze, I quickly assessed the number of people and immediately formed a plan in my mind. Fu Jing, who feared nothing in heaven or earth, lifted his eyelids and coldly spat 2 words at Zhou Chongji. "Idiot." Hearing this, Zhou Chongji laughed in extreme anger. "Let's see today who's the real idiot." I took a step back, nudged Fu Jing's arm with my elbow, and whispered, "Follow my lead." Fu Jing raised an eyebrow in surprise. "You can fight too." I stared at Zhou Chongji approaching step by step, counting down under my breath. 3, 2, 1. Fu Jing spoke calmly. "Tell me, who should we beat up?" At the last moment, I grabbed Fu Jing's hand and shouted sharply, "Run!" I yanked Fu Jing away, and he exclaimed in shock, "Didn't you say we were going to fight back?" I ran with practiced ease, deftly weaving through the alleyways with Fu Jing in tow even while panting for breath. I still had the energy to scold him. "Are you out of your mind? There are 18 of them and only 2 of us. How could we possibly fight? Having backbone is good, but those who can't assess the situation are just fools. Both my brain and hands are crucial. My dream is to cultivate high-end wheat unique to China. I can't afford to get injured." Fu Jing let out a disdainful snort from his nose. Coward. But he wasn't actually stupid enough to go back and pick a fight with Zhou Zhongji. After saying these words, Fu Jing fell silent. Fortunately, I had lived here for a long time and was very familiar with the terrain. I led Fu Jing to a dead end, scaled the wall in a few steps, then quickly pulled him over. After hiding, I pulled Fu Jing down to crouch, pressing our ears against the wall as we listened to Zhou Chongji's men cursing while running away. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. Turning my head, I saw Fu Jing staring at me in a daze. I frowned. "What are you doing?" After hesitating for a moment, he muttered, "That moment when you climbed over the wall just now was pretty cool." 15. Su Yinglong caused another scene. One night, she suddenly showed up at the Fu family's doorstep, weeping pitifully, holding a camera. She sobbed while banging on our door. "Little sister, grandma is sick, please go see her." Behind where the camera couldn't see, a vicious glint flashed in Su Yinglong's eyes as she said weakly, "Come with me quickly to see grandma." Disdainful of her family's shabby home, Su Yinglong had long since moved out of the rental and settled comfortably into the apartment Zhou Chongji rented for her. She rarely returned even if grandma fell ill. How could she know before I did? Besides, I just visited grandma not long ago. She had a rosy complexion and was in good health. Su Yinglong's move was undoubtedly a weasel giving New Year's greetings to a chicken, harboring no good intentions. I checked the surveillance footage from grandma's house, took a glance to confirm she was safe and sound, then reached out to close the door. "Come on, sis, I can see you're brewing up some mischief." Su Yinglong flusteredly blocked the door, putting on an anxious performance. I'm serious, little sister. Grandma is really sick and wants to see you at home, I scoffed, eyeing Su Yinglong. Next time, try acting more convincingly, sis. Then I might consider it. Fu Jing stepped out from behind me. His eyelids lowered as he looked down at Su Yinglong with disdain, as if observing an insignificant insect. He frowned in disgust. What kind of stray cats and dogs dare knock on our door? Are the security guards just for show? Fu Jing pressed the intercom button, his voice icy. Security, escort this person out. Su Yinglong was escorted out by security with a tearful voice. Before leaving, the camera she held kept pointing in our direction. Su Yinglong glared at us from afar with venomous eyes, silently mouthing, "You're done. Done with what, do you really think I'm stupid and can't see her blatantly holding up her phone? I just want this wind to blow stronger, even stronger. The higher you climb, the harder you'll fall." Of course, 16 on the scheduled date, academician Fan arrived as promised, because academician Fan is a renowned scholar at the Academy of Agricultural Sciences. When she arrived, many newspaper reporters came to the school together to interview her, just as the principal respectfully invited academician Fan to tour the school. Together, Su Yinglong rushed over, holding her phone and sobbing. She knelt on the ground, grabbed academician Fan's skirt with tears in her eyes, and cried, "Teacher, please help me. After my younger sister was adopted by the Fu family, not only did she ignore me and grandma's well-being, but she also bullies me at school. I really have no other choice." Academician Fan was a very gentle elder. Seeing this, she quickly helped Su Yinglong up and asked with concern, "Child, what exactly happened? Who is your sister?" Su Yinglong sobbed while wiping her tears. "My sister is Fu Qiushi." Upon hearing this name, academician Fan was momentarily stunned, and her gaze gradually sharpened. She said softly, "Can you tell your teacher in detail what exactly happened?" The reporters standing nearby instinctively raised their cameras the moment they saw Su Yinglong burst in. When they heard Su Yinglong mention bullying, their eyes lit up, and the red recording lights on their cameras blinked. Incessantly they fixed their gaze on Su Yinglong and spoke gently, "Don't be afraid, child, we're journalists, we'll get you justice." Su Yinglong slowly raised her tear-reddened eyes and lifted her phone to play the video. That video was the one from a few nights ago when Su Yinglong came crying to the Fu family's door. As the video reached its conclusion, the journalist said indignantly, "This is too much. How could they be so ungrateful? What's this about bullying? Concerning the development of young people, we take campus violence cases very seriously and must resolutely eliminate school bullying. We will absolutely not tolerate it." Dean Fan let out a soft sigh and turned to the principal. "Please call the other child over. I'd like to hear her side of the story. Something like this happened so suddenly." The principal was sweating profusely and quickly had someone summon me to the office. As soon as he entered the office, he sternly reprimanded me, saying, "Fu Qiushi, even though you were adopted by the Fu family, Su Yinglong is still your relative after all. How could you bully your sister just because you're now a child of a wealthy family?" Standing opposite the principal, I looked up and smiled faintly, responding neither humbly nor arrogantly. "Principal, are you saying that no one, regardless of who they are, should bully classmates at school?" The principal raised his voice and declared, "Of course, this is a school. No matter what a student's family background is, once they enter the school, they are all students. The school will never tolerate any acts of bullying." Hearing this, I smiled contentedly, my eyes curving slightly. "Principal, I report that Zhou Chongji is bullying me at school." As soon as these words were spoken, the whole room erupted in uproar. Everyone knows that Zhou Chongji is the young master of the Zhou family in Ningqing, a person of noble status. He's not someone to be trifled with. In an instant, the reporters' cameras all swiveled to focus on me in unison. Cold sweat poured down the principal's forehead as he slammed the table hard. "Nonsense, you haven't even explained your own bullying behavior clearly. How dare you falsely accuse Zhou without evidence?" 17 I slowly averted my gaze and sighed. "First of all, the claim that I bullied Su Yinglong is completely fabricated, a baseless accusation from start to finish." A flicker of unmistakable panic crossed Su Yinglong's face. "You're lying," she demanded. The principal retrieved the surveillance footage, pulling up all the recordings of me slapping her in the hallway. The surveillance footage clearly shows the truth. I slapped Su Yinglong. The principal slammed the desk and shouted sharply, "Fu Qiushi, what explanation do you have for this?" My gaze shifted as I shook my head. "I admit that slapping Su Yinglong is a fact. It was an act of violence in a moment of desperation, and I willingly accept punishment." A smug expression appeared on Su Yinglong's face. Then I changed my tone. "However, every time I got angry and hit Su Yinglong, there was a reason. My brother Fu Jing has bipolar disorder, which makes him emotionally unstable. Yet Su Yinglong openly spread rumors at school that Fu Jing was a lunatic. Her actions undoubtedly worsened his condition. What's more, Su Yinglong always called Fu Jing a lunatic right in front of me. I raised my eyes and looked at the crowd. Fu Jing is a good brother, and I can't tolerate him being slandered like this by Su Yinglong. Almost everyone in the school knew that Fu Jing had bipolar disorder. Hearing this, the principal showed a thoughtful expression. A reporter whispered, "Indeed, physical conflicts arising from verbal disputes are understandable and cannot serve as direct evidence of school bullying." After hearing the whole story, academician Fan tapped the desk and looked at me. "So, your sister claims you've been neglecting our elderly grandmother. What's that about?" I nodded and looked directly at academician Fan. I said softly, "Perhaps having my grandmother explain in person would be more convincing." 18 Fu Jing led Grandma into the office. On the way, Grandma had already heard the whole story. She looked at Su Yinglong with deep disappointment, as if unable to comprehend why the child would behave this way. With a choked voice, Grandma said, "Qiushi is a good child. She's been helping me with farm work since she was little, never complaining about hardship or fatigue." Her withered, aged hands fumbled repeatedly in her clothes pocket before tremblingly pulling out a tightly wrapped cloth bundle. Unwrapping it revealed a bank card inside. Grandma slowly rubbed the bank card with her hands, tears streaming from her eyes. "After Qiushi was adopted by the Fu family, she visited me every month and saved all her pocket money for this old woman to use. She worries about my poor health. Despite being busy with her own studies, she frequently comes back to visit me and helps with chores." "Sis." Grandma's clouded eyes welled up with tears as she spoke guiltily. "Is it because I'm not well educated that I failed to raise you properly? How could you lie and slander your younger sister like this?" Hearing Grandma's words, Su Yinglong's face turned pale. She kept shaking her head. "What are you talking about, Grandma? How come I never knew about Fu Qiushi visiting you?" Su Yinglong forced a smile. "Don't lie to everyone just to protect Fu Qiushi." Grandma staggered a couple of steps, trembling as if about to kneel before everyone. "This old woman dares to guarantee Qiushi is truly a good child. She's never done anything wicked or harmful. Don't be harsh with the girl." Seeing my grandmother's actions, I immediately stepped forward and supported her. Grandma broke free from my hand, knelt down, and kowtowed to the crowd. With tears, she said, "Yinglong is my fault for not teaching her well. Don't blame her." The reporter's eyes darted around. Having seen many scenes, they understood the situation clearly. The truth and falsehood could be distinguished at a glance. I helped Grandma to her feet and looked at Su Yinglong with a cold smile. "Of course she wouldn't know that I often visit Grandma, because you despised our poor family and moved out long ago. Search your conscience. How many times did you visit Grandma in the 6 months after you left, worried about Grandma's poor health and afraid she might fall or get sick with no one to care for her?" I installed surveillance cameras at home. Watching as Su Yinglong's face grew paler by the second, I said coldly, "You would have definitely noticed these things if you were at home. But, you know what?" I pulled up the camera footage and displayed the surveillance records previously saved on my phone. In the video, Su Yinglong rarely came home, and whenever she did, she would rummage through drawers looking for Grandma's savings passbook, arrogantly demanding money from her. Fortunately, I had reminded Grandma in advance, so she hid the bank card I gave her very well. That's why Su Yinglong couldn't find it. In the video, Su Yinglong impatiently shoved Grandma and cursed, "You old hag, truly a waste of life. Can't even produce a single penny. What's the point of me staying with you anyway?" And Grandma, pushed by Su Yinglong, staggered and fell to the ground, only able to apologize. "I'm sorry, Grandma is useless, can't earn money." When I first saw these videos earlier, I was already burning with anger. Rushed to Grandma's house overnight to take her for a medical checkup. Fortunately, nothing serious happened, and now, the evidence left in the video has all become sharp blades pointing at Su Yinglong. From the moment I entered, Su Yinglong had stealthily propped up her phone on the bookshelf. Her phone was live streaming, recording everything from the very beginning. Her original intention was to provoke conflict and have netizens criticize me. Little did she expect the situation to reverse so quickly, silently intercepted by me. She had no chance to shut down the live stream. Netizens' reactions shifted from initial sympathy for Su Yinglong and insults toward me, to speechlessness as the tide turned, and finally to outright condemnation of Su Yinglong upon seeing those videos. "How disgusting, what a vile white lotus, stop pretending to be innocent." And I actually thought she stayed with her grandma out of love. Turns out she just wanted to suck the old woman dry, feed off her bones. So cheap, so damn cheap. I was just defending her earlier. I regret it so much. 19 Academician Fan helped Grandma sit down, saying softly, "Sister Showa, Rest a bit and have some water. Grandma used to be a support worker in Academician Fan's research lab, helping the department with soil tilling and planting. In her previous life, Academician Fan remembered the elderly grandma and made a special visit after her speech, which led to the unexpected discovery of my natural talent in agriculture. Therefore, after working hard to get into agricultural school, I became Academician Fan's student in this lifetime. Su Yinglong wants to prevent me from meeting Academician Fan, trying to stop me from following the same path as my previous life, but I was well prepared, having already compiled and sent my thesis to Academician Fan's email early on. After reviewing my thesis ideas, Academician Fan was greatly impressed. We exchanged contact information. She learned about my situation, and arranged to meet me on the day of her lecture. So when Su Yinglong came in crying, Academician Fan decided to hear the full story and understand the actual situation before drawing any conclusions as soon as she heard my name. And the outcome didn't disappoint her expectations. Then looking at me, Academician Fan smiled gently. Qiushi, you truly are a good child. I wasn't wrong about you. After a pause, she turned to the principal and said sternly, the misunderstandings surrounding student Fu Qiushi have all been clarified. Now, it's time to call Zhou Chongji over and discuss his school bullying issues. Seeing this situation, the principal's forehead was beaded with increasingly more cold sweat the more he wiped. I smiled and said, of course, words alone are no proof. We can certainly review the surveillance footage first. When this matter was mentioned, Su Yinglong nearly lost her balance. I calmly opened the surveillance footage and played out every detail of Zhou Chongji leading a group to corner me, exactly as captured by the cameras. Of course, I wouldn't be as foolishly blatant and heavy-handed as Su Yinglong. I understand the wisdom of biding one's time and concealing one's strength. If I act, I'll strike like an eagle, lethal in a single blow. Today, I'm going to solve everything all at once. Zhou Zhongji bullied me. That's a fact. And today, accompanying Academician Fan are all elite reporters from Ningqing Daily. When it comes to sensitive topics like wealthy family bullying, they're like wolves catching the scent of blood, their eyes suddenly glowing red. They won't stop until they've torn off a piece of flesh. Zhou Chongji, even as the most esteemed young master of the Zhou family, has no one to protect him. 20. The course of events unfolded exactly as I had anticipated. With evidence in hand, this is practically an indisputable fact. Journalists widely publicized Zhou Chongji's bullying of classmates. Overnight, Zhou Group stocks plummeted severely, and even Zhou Chongji didn't come to school for several consecutive days. Fearing Zhou Chongji's violent retaliation, I behaved very obediently during those days, strictly following my school schedule without daring to stay outside a moment longer. Yet inevitably, I still ran into Zhou Chongji at school. Over these past few days, he's grown terribly haggard, with dark, sunken eyes and bluish circles beneath them. He stopped me. Fu Qiushi, let's talk. I warily glanced around, making sure we were surrounded by classmates, before replying defensively, I have nothing to say to you. Zhou Chongji ignored me, lowering his head to light a cigarette, holding the cigarette in his mouth, nicotine swirling in his lungs. He flicked the ash before speaking slowly. That alley where I had someone block you, was that where your grandmother lived? I frowned, unsure why Zhou Chongji would ask such a question. I replied defensively, don't even think about causing trouble for my grandmother. I've already moved her out. She's somewhere none of you can find now. Hearing my response, Zhou Chongji scoffed, tossed the cigarette butt to the ground, and crushed it under his foot. I didn't mean to take revenge on you. He was silent for a moment before murmuring, all this time, I never realized. Su Yinglong claimed to care about grandma, yet she never once went back to visit her. Zhou Chongji shut his eyes tightly, exhaling sharply. I see it clearly now. This is the retribution I deserve. I disliked you before because I thought you were money-grabbing, a greedy and opportunistic ingrate. That's exactly the kind of person my father was. He killed my mother. That's why I've always hated people like him the most, but only now do I realize, I'm a fucking idiot, being played like a fool while pretending to be righteous. Zhou Chongji pressed his lips together, lowering his head stiffly as he apologized to me. I'm sorry, Fu Qiushi. Seeing Zhou Chongji like this, I calmly took 2 steps back. Don't be disgusting. If apologies were enough, what would we need the police for? With that, I turned and walked away without looking back. Zhou Chongji stood behind me, quietly watching my retreating figure. He murmured softly, just consider me shameless. 21. I heard Zhou Chongji dumped Su Yinglong. Before long, rumors spread again that Su Yinglong was pregnant. She cried and made a scene at the Zhou family's doorstep, demanding they take responsibility. Unfortunately, the one who responded to her wasn't Zhou Chongji, but his father, old Mr. Zhou, already in a foul mood due to heavy stock market losses. felt even more disgusted upon seeing Su Yinglong, the root cause of Zhou Chongji's scandal. Being exposed, he was still smiling when facing Su Yinglong, but his words showed no mercy. "You're pregnant. How can you be sure it's my son's? A woman like you, Mr. Zhou leisurely sized up Su Yinglong. She was beautiful, a petite face the size of a palm, round eyes, and had been a beauty since childhood. Thus, whether in her past life or this one, she deluded herself into thinking she could captivate men with her looks. The only pity was, in her previous life, she opposed Fu Jing and suffered terribly for it, but in this life, Zhou Chongji saw through Su Yinglong's true nature and grew utterly disgusted with her. After sizing her up, Father Zhou smirked disdainfully. "Just a wave of my hand, and I could have plenty more. What makes you think you're anything special?" Father Zhou waved his hand in utter disgust. "Take her away, abort the fetus, and then send her wherever she's supposed to go." Su Yinglong was forced to undergo an abortion. Within just a few days, she became severely emaciated, her cheeks hollowed out. When Grandma heard about this, she felt nothing but heartache, blaming herself for failing to raise Su Yinglong properly. But I knew clearly that all of this was Su Yinglong's own doing. I didn't want to upset Grandma, so I agreed to visit Su Yinglong at the hospital on her behalf. Su Yinglong lay on the hospital bed, her gaze vacant as she murmured, Why is my fate still so miserable even after being reborn? How come I can never win against you?" I watched her from a distance, expressionless. "Your biggest mistake was placing your hopes on someone else. In your past life, you wanted to rely on the Fu family to become a young lady. Unfortunately, they had ulterior motives for adopting a daughter, so you couldn't accept it and directly opposed the Fu family without considering Fu Jing's illness, creating a vicious cycle that made Fu Jing dislike you even more. In this life, you want to rely on Zhou Chongji's affection to become a wealthy wife. Unfortunately, the version of you that Zhou Chongji likes is all an act. You can pretend for a while, but not for a lifetime. You could have chosen a path more suited to yourself. Sister, the biggest difference between you and me is that I never rely on others. I place all my hopes on myself." Hearing my words, Su Yinglong froze for a moment, her face deathly pale as she shook her head, stubbornly insisting, "I'm not like you." "Not at all," Su Yinglong screamed hoarsely. "Ordering people to throw me out." Later, I heard that after Su Yinglong recovered her health, she frequently visited bars and dance halls, places of decadent revelry. Relying on her looks, she indeed managed to hook up with quite a few wealthy men, but those men were just toying with her, and once they got bored, they quickly discarded her. Not a single one was willing to marry her. They sneered, "You're just a whore who's been played by thousands. If it weren't for your decent face, I wouldn't even consider taking you in." In just a few months, Su Yinglong was forced to undergo multiple abortions. The last time, she encountered Zhou Chongji at a bar. Watching Zhou Chongji being surrounded by the crowd at the center, Su Yinglong's eyes turned red with rage as she grabbed a knife and walked towards Zhou Chongji. Zhou Chongji was stabbed dozens of times and immediately rushed to the emergency room, with his life hanging in the balance. Meanwhile, Su Yinglong was arrested and imprisoned for the crime of intentional assault. 22. I came across this news story through a webpage notification while checking my exam results. After the college entrance exams, Fu Jing scored well with 531 points, enough to get him into a good university in Ningqing. As for me, with 739 points, I was the top science student in the city. My goal was clear, to attend the agricultural school where academician Fan once studied. With the college entrance exams over and my duty of caring for Fu Jing completed, I decided to bid farewell to the Fu family. I slid forward a card. "This is the prize money I earned from participating in competitions and inventing patents during high school. I've saved all the pocket money you gave me. I was adopted by the Fu family only to repay their kindness in helping my grandmother back then. Now, it's time to leave." Hearing my words, Fu Jing clenched his fists and said in disbelief, "You're leaving?" I smiled and reassured him, "Fu Jing, no one will stay by your side forever. You need to learn to say goodbye." Now, Fu Jing's condition is well under control, and his bipolar disorder rarely flares up. Besides, my gaze softened, I have my own dreams to pursue, and I'm going after them. My dream is to cultivate premium wheat varieties, giving Chinese people access to high-end domestic crops, ensuring food security without relying on imports, encouraging citizens to prioritize local produce, enabling premium pricing for quality agricultural products, and helping farmers earn better incomes. I've had a dream since childhood. The crops my grandmother worked so hard to grow would no longer be sold at unfairly low prices. In my past life, I had already cultivated the wheat variety of my dreams, but now, all this remains just a vision. Today's China lacks high-end agricultural products in the international market. Despite being a major agricultural country, It is the world's largest importer of agricultural products, moreover. Apart from the Northeast Plain and a few other regions where mechanized production and planting can be achieved, most areas in China consist of mountains and hills, making full mechanization impossible. I believe that with previous experience, I can not only develop the ideal wheat variety ahead of schedule but also make further high-quality improvements, making it a premium high-end wheat variety better suited to China's conditions. 23. It's just that I didn't expect. On the first day of school, Fu Jing appeared lazily in front of me, dragging his suitcase. I was somewhat stunned. "Why are you here?" He pulled me into a side hug, lifting his eyelids lazily. Big brother can't bear to let his little sister wander alone in a foreign place. Grandma couldn't understand why Su Yinglong made the unprecedented choice to stay in this impoverished household. Huahua, Fu Jing pushed me outward. "Go help me fill out the forms quickly. There are so many people there. Crowds give me a headache." Taking advantage of my occupied hands, Fu Jing slipped a bank card into my bag. He smirked playfully. "The Fu family has money. It's not like we can't afford to support you. Why are you being so dramatic? We finally have a top student little sister. The whole family can't spoil you enough. How could we bear to see you living like an ascetic every day?" "Don't worry," Fu Jing ruffled my hair. "I've arranged for Grandma to be brought home. She'll be well taken care of." "Genius. Never mind the trivialities. Just focus on changing the world with that brilliant mind of yours. As for everything else, with your big brother here, what is there to fear? Once a brother, always a brother. I'll always have your back, bro. You can count on me." 24. At the age of 25, working with Academician Fan, our team successfully cultivated high-end premium wheat, high yield, excellent taste, easy to cultivate. Within just a few years, Huagua's premium wheat became a global bestseller. Through the substantial patent fees collected from seeds and the profits from agricultural exports, Hua country's agricultural sector has been developing increasingly well. As agriculture became profitable, more and more people began to engage in agricultural production. In the year I turned 29 at the venue of the Supreme Science and Technology Awards